I am fucking exhausted.
Oh, yes.
But I'm ready for this week to be over.
I'm really excited for this week. I am in a week's time to the T we will be watching.
Yeah, we're going. We're gonna go see the John Mayer show. That's gonna be fun.
Yes, I'm very excited.
Welcome back to the Degenerates. This is episode 13, I think. I haven't been keeping up. The editing's been fucking killing me. But your place to come watch some hot takes and to listen to us be
Rowdy.
Opinionated and rowdy or whatever the hell that you're here to watch for. Yeah.
Yes.
Juliet couldn't be here with us today. She's pretty busy. But it is Easter.
Yes.
Easter Sunday, and none of us here are that religious, so we decided to film. We decided a week ago that we were gonna film today, so we're just here doing it, and everything is closed. And I got back in. Me and Bree got back into town at like 5 a.m. this morning, so we're like,
what?
Yeah, because we went to Austin for the show.
Oh,
the gig that she had.
yeah. Well, yeah, we got to hear about that.
So it was like,
5 a.m.
So I've been sleeping all day. Then I set this up today, and then this week is a little busy, but it's all right. It's all good. And there hasn't been a lot of stuff happening outside of the opinionated things.
There really hasn't been too much going on.
Nothing crazy. So we're just gonna be here and shit talk and be a little bit just off the cuff. And see what happens,
Yes.
But we did go and see. Me and Bree went on Friday night, Saturday. What was it? Thursday? I don't know. One of these days. Friday.
Thursday.
One of these days. We went to go see the new Fantastic Beasts movie.
You told us. You told me and Alex that it was okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
it was good. It was good.
Like for people that are just like really into the Harry Potter fandom and whatnot, like it's a good thing just to bring you back to the Wizarding world.
Yes.
But there were some things about it that, like, just looking at it from, like, the storyline side that you're kind of, like, I feel like they just missed out on a lot of opportunities to...
That they better fucking clear up in the fourth one.
There are a lot of, like, things there that, spoiler alert, with Nagini not being in the movie at all.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, fuck
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of plot holes. Y'all gotta figure figure this out. All right, I'm not trying to. I want to see this go all the way full out and go through the fifth movie. I'm trying to see fucking Dumbledore and Grindelwald make out, and so they can stop.
That is not going to happen.
And so that they can stop their dick measuring contest. Like I want that to happen already. I am also ready for my man's Newt and Tina to be fully committed.
Stop being awkward.
And stop being awkward. And the fact that Tina, my girl Tina, wasn't in this movie.
They weren't in the movie.
Y'all gotta fix this because this is. Yeah, she was in there for a minimal
at the very
end,
thing.
Yeah.
And if there was a reason why that actress couldn't be there for the filming of it and whatnot, I would have been perfectly okay with her not necessarily being in it if they gave it a better story or a better reason. But the reason they gave for her not to be there was just half-assed.
Y'all had no excuse. COVID, y'all had plenty of time to sit and talk schedules and you know what I mean? Go to coffee and be like, are you a hero? Are you going to be available on Wednesday? Cause that's when we filming, bitch.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And but I read somewhere, I was like, man, why is my girl not in this? Because if she's out, I'm gonna be pissed. This whole thing is falling apart. But nah, apparently she had a baby or something like that during the pandemic and this and that and blah blah blah. And
during the pandemic was 2 years ago.
I don't know though. They made some hella excuses, but they got 2 movies left and they better bring that back because my man's Newt and this girl need to be fully
figure this shit out.
Fully involved. I'm sick and tired of having them just make googly eyes at each other and not.
They haven't even had their first kiss. It's 3
I'm
movies
so
in, and they're
tired.
just building all this sexual tension between them, but they won't actually give them any kind of
I'm pissed.
Love. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah,
I wasn't even that mad about we'll get into Johnny Depp in a little bit, but I wasn't even that mad about how the actor portrayed Grindelwald all that much. It's cool. It's alright. It's not a big deal.
I do think that guy is a phenomenal actor.
Yeah. He's great.
I
really do wish that in the movie they would have started the movie off and he was on the run or whatever the fuck that Grindelwald was, and then Albus or somebody would have been made a little sly remark of ooh, that's not how he looked like before, so that they could be oh, he's on Polyjuice potion or some shit to bring Johnny Depp back in the future.
But no,
But no, they didn't even bring that shit up. They just acted like this nigga was like the same one
person
the entire
First off,
time.
I want to say I'm really salty at the fact that you just took that from me because I was the one that literally brought that up and told you that, and you're
That's
like,
what I'm
I
saying.
never even thought of that. I was like, they
didn't.
could
I didn't
literally
think
just
about
have
that.
him take Polyjuice potion, like,
You think
and
that
then
so
leave
right.
that opening for
do you
death in the
think
future.
that the reason why they did that? I mean, I'm sure the reason why they did that is just to like make sure that like there is no actual reasonable excuse or like continuity excuse to bring him back.
Right.
I feel like they were like,
And that
no,
sucks.
like
That
we're
sucks
purposely
because
making
like if
it
he
to where
couldn't
he
if he
cannot
couldn't
come
film
back.
because of the trial or whatever, because there's a trial in London or something
Yeah.
like that. If he couldn't film because
Isn't
of
it
the trial,
Virginia? Pennsylvania?
No,
Right,
so
the
the
defamation
first
trial
one,
is
the first
in
one.
Virginia right now, but
Okay.
he already lost the one in Europe.
in Europe, and that's the one that was like.
Right. So if he was, if that was going on and that was a conflict and like a scheduling conflict and he couldn't get out of it or whatever, like okay, I get it, dog.
I
Like,
thought it
but like if
wasn't
you had
about-
if you don't know what it's gonna turn out and he's gonna get vindicated, why not leave a little bit of a
100
fucking plot
opening,
hole?
yeah.
I 100%
to just be like,
thought that it wasn't about that. I thought that they were making it to where they didn't want his negative press associated to the movie anymore. Like I didn't know it was because of scheduling issues.
Right, but to my point, he's not getting negative press.
Yeah, at
Every
this point.
single time Johnny Depp is trending anywhere, it is Johnny Depp is innocent, Amber Heard's a bitch, Amber Heard, like, you know what I mean?
And
Like
if that's the case, and
so
that's
like
the
there is no
argument-
negative energy at all. If anything, they could have used that to their advantage because they could have had Johnny Depp in it, and they could have been like,
Justice
"Yes,
for
my
Johnny.
man's, I'm gonna go support, right? Like, because he needs the money or whatever." I don't know. People don't know. Like,
But the thing
you know?
that people are most mad about right now is the fact that they're doing the exact opposite, and they're, if nothing, supporting Amber Heard over Johnny Depp because she's still in Aquaman. Although, wait, no, didn't she actually get taken out at the last
no,
minute?
she's still in it.
I'm gonna check that because
Check. You can check it up here.
Really?
Look,
Ew.
Juliet.
she's still here
She's
with
still
us.
here.
Here in presence.
With
Ew, really? They
well, she's an
For
Aquaman.
a long time, I know that she was still in it, but I feel like I heard that they did take her out. Let's see.
What does it say?
DC film buff testifies.
So right now it's a defamation suit. Like the Johnny Depp has filed a defamation lawsuit against Amber Heard because
No, it
she-
looks like everything is still saying that she's still in it.
yeah. So
Almost didn't return.
so she's so and Aquaman is Warner Brothers and Fantastic Beasts is Warner Brothers. So
Oh. No, that totally makes sense then. That's
so people were pissed off that she's still cast in it and like
I would be too. I mean, because this is the thing. Let's say it is about the image that they are like portraying.
yeah.
I mean, she's just, if it's about the bad press or the press in general associated to this kind of case, then it should be fair and it should be.
Yeah.
Neither one of you bitches get to have your limelight.
Yeah, but
right
even
now. Like,
even as a company, right? Like even if a company you're being a pragmatist and like these big corporations are always pragmatists, they're always like, what's gonna keep us the most money?
Yeah.
Like what's gonna make us the most money or whatever. Like it would have still been smart to use Johnny Depp's
yeah.
redemption song
I did see.
as a way to like keep listeners involved. Right?
Yeah.
Like you know what I'm
Okay,
saying?
yeah.
Or keep viewers involved.
I did see though that basically, oh my god, the thought literally just escaped my mind. Oh my god, I was literally just thinking about it.
You can come back to it.
I was just reading about it. Hold on.
Yeah, so I'm surprised that they didn't use it to their advantage because every single time Johnny Depp is trending, it's to vindicate him. It's to talk about how he's not wrong, how Amber Heard is wrong, how like justice for Johnny Depp is always trending.
Oh,
Johnny
I
Depp is
remember
always
this.
innocent is always trending. You know, like
It's-
boycott Amber Heard and all this crazy
based off
shit.
what I was reading, they say that the reason why, or like it was speculated that the reason why she started to like bring all of this up at the time that she did was because it was during the Me Too movement.
Right.
So
and that's her biggest criticism. That's why the defamation case is happening right now.
And I think and I believe that maybe at the time the companies were like, if I were to get her out of this, they're gonna start saying, oh, you don't support the Me Too movement. A lot of companies were trying not to get involved with that movement. They were like,
that makes sense at the beginning.
Yeah. At the beginning.
But by now,
by now, I feel like, I mean, I don't know. Did they already film the movie or?
I definitely think they have. I think at the very least, they have no excuse why they couldn't go back in and add the smallest scene of them just being like, wow, Grindelwald doesn't look like himself. He must be on Polyjuice Potion, and then be able to bring back Depp in the future.
Right.
You know? And they didn't do that. If anything, the thing that is most annoying is that not only did they not do that, but they didn't even like acknowledge any sign of the fact that he changed, not only physically his appearance, but like acting wise, they act completely different. Yeah. Like personality is just not the same at all in Grindelwald anymore.
And I'm not necessarily that mad at that.
I'm not mad at the fact that he's different, especially with you explaining that like the actor came and said like, I'm not going to try to act like Depp. If I do, that'll be what do you say?
Creative suicide.
Yeah,
which is facts. Like,
yeah, and that's a great thing, saying that like, yo, I can't act the way Johnny acts. You know, that's and great on him. But the fact that they don't even want to acknowledge it and they want to just act like that is the same fucking person. Annoyed.
I bet.
Yeah,
really
I just feel like with the Wizarding World, you had options.
So many ways.
You had options of being able to tell, like, because especially because the first movie called Colin Farrell was the New York cop, and he ends up being Johnny Depp as Grindelwald at the end. Right, so you've already set the precedent of Johnny Depp
possibly being able to manipulate all of that because
his
of
appearance.
And even if they didn't do it on the side of like trying to bring Johnny back or anything like that, just for the story, like just you know,
or have Albus say like this is the Grindelwald that I know. This is the one. This is his true appearance.
As if he was on Polyjuice Potion before.
Right. Like, you know what I mean? Just like have some sort of for continuity or some things like that. But but overall, on an artistic sense, a lot of points. On an artistic sense, I think this movie's great. Some of the magic that was like filmed, and like the special effects, and like it has been actually. This movie has the best action sequences of any Harry Potter Wizarding World movie ever.
Yeah, definitely.
Yes, it just hands down the level of magic, the mastery of magic that these wizards are like. Dumbledore's first army all day. Fuck his second army. Like
there are actually a lot of, so like I follow a lot of different like Harry Potter fandom groups and things like that, and a lot of people talk about the fact that like in the original Harry Potter movies, especially when they get to like the wars in the final movie, the entire time, half the time, it's just wizards waving their wands, and you just see basically like stunning spells coming out of their wands and just like hitting people, and people like almost like you could legit just replace their wands with guns, and it's like it would be the same thing.
Yeah.
Right.
Like you're just hitting people and they just fall. You know. In this one now, you watch like what's the new girl that they just put in there? The black girl, the black wizard.
Lally.
Lally.
That's her name. Lally.
With
she's
her, when
great.
she like she's phenomenal, and they even mentioned that she has like phenomenal defense. Like strategies and
raw.
stuff.
She's fire.
She turns people into paintings on the wall. Like she just sticks them in the wall. And it's great.
Fire.
That is something.
And she's gangster too. She's got confidence. That girl.
I feel like that's something that like I really feel like was missing in Harry Potter.
Yeah.
Because all of the entire time as I was growing up watching it and thinking about it, and I'm like, okay, you're a witch, you're a wizard, cool. That's all you can do with your wand? Like, is that really the only spell you memorize? Like, you really can't? Is really Harry the only one that's supposed to know, or maybe has a knowledge of one spell that might be like miraculous? Like,
but no, even with him though,
I know
he only knows one spell, and it's the most basic spell. It's the disarming charm.
That's what I'm saying. It's just like as I was growing up, I was just like, this is what the wizards do.
I get the like, I understand why, because they're children and they may not be able to, like, they may not know more or whatever.
Even the adults.
Yeah, but even then in the sixth movie, or in the 5th movie, whenever fucking the First Order comes in to fight the Death Eaters in the little room with the doorway or whatever, like they come in and they wreck shop. Like you could tell the difference between when Sirius comes in and is fighting and
it's
and
still
when
not
Harry
different spells though.
No, but it's better. It's better defense though. It's better wizards. You could tell the difference between Sirius trying to fuck shit up against Lucius, as opposed to Harry
and
trying
I
to
can
disarm
tell you right
Malfoy.
now, the coolest
You know what I
spell.
mean?
Okay, they do a lot of like, you know, obviously they're kids, they're in school, so they're like learning spells. So sometimes they'll like learn cool spells, and then they'll make a point of like using that spell, like learning how to do Wingardium Leviosa, and then they showed it to have Ron like use it as like a point in the movie. But outside of that, you never really see them use that.
Yeah. Right.
But the coolest one that I think was ever shown in Harry Potter is in the last movie with Molly Weasley, when Bellatrix Lestrange is going after Ginny, and she just steps up and she's like, "Not my daughter, you bitch," and she blows that bitch into pieces.
Yeah.
Coolest fucking one I've ever seen. That they didn't have to do any explanation. It was just like, here's a new spell for you.
Right.
Like,
right.
I think
And I understand, even in Harry Potter, like the spells might have been a little bit more intricate, because once you learn mastery of the spells, you don't have to say the words.
Yeah.
You can just wave the stick,
you
and
just
then you're
know,
good.
like,
Like, it's gonna happen.
Like your body
you know what I mean?
just knows.
But in terms of special effects,
It was really good.
this movie, fuck me.
Yeah.
Like, Dumbledore is a fucking badass, and Dumbledore is a very ambiguous, like morally ambiguous character. Like, like going back and retrospectively speaking, you know, like seeing what he does with all the movies. But fuck me, man, the way his magic in this third Fantastic Beasts movie is next level. It's like, oh, now I understand why. Now I understand why everybody was hella afraid of him in Harry Potter, because Harry Potter was just walking around eating fucking Twizzlers or whatever the fuck he was eating, and everybody was just like, "No, Dumbledore, the greatest wizard." And I was like, "What you mean, dog? All he did was clap on a phoenix and disappeared." But in this movie, he went into like an alternate dimension. Yeah,
he's steady
like
pulling
a
people into
fucking
different places.
weird room of white, and like sucked the soul out of this one dude. Fought him in a different dimension, brought him back, and was like, "There, my child." And like, we might fuck shit up.
What?
And the entire time,
There.
the entire time, he just was walking.
Yep.
Swayed like.
Swaying.
Fucking cool as a cucumber.
Okay.
Chilling, eating a corn cup. Like,
chilling in a corn cup.
It was fucking great. And then the girl, Lolly, first of all, the way they introduced her, I was not happy with, because I don't know who the fuck this bitch is. And like,
in general,
yeah. But she's fire. Cause she's there and she saves fucking Jacob in the one scene, and she is fucking. Her magic is next level.
Really?
Next level.
That's
so
cool.
I'm like, in terms of creatively speaking,
You think this one's good?
this movie's good, imagery wise. What they do to show that they're in the wizarding world, A1. In terms of storytelling, narrative, continuity, it gets like a C, like a C minus. You know what I mean?
Okay.
But if you're a Wizarding World fan and you just want to see more of the world, it is gonna continue getting an A plus for me.
Yeah,
because
but, I mean,
you just get to see more beasts.
Even
you
just watching the first Fantastic Beasts, you were like, damn.
You get to get
there's
these little
so
Easter
much
eggs.
more to this whole
so
world
cool.
that like they didn't touch
You get to
on
see
in
different
just Harry Potter.
nations.
Yeah,
you get to see different. So it's just like more immersive experience, and you're just like, fuck, like you get the little like things in your stomach, right? And then in terms of Matt Nicholson and his new Grindelwald, I wasn't upset with his performance. He's pretty chilling. He, to me, looks more like what an actual villain is supposed to feel like.
I do think that is true.
You know what I mean? Like
I do 100% think that is true.
But I wouldn't have been mad. I wasn't mad at Johnny's interpretation of that also, because he had like a more flamboyant kind of like overall presence, and I fucked with that too. So I'm not necessarily that mad at it, but in terms of the Johnny Depp thing, in the continuity, yeah, I agree with Brie. I think they should have at least mentioned something to where they can at least bring it back and to, be able to like play with words and like create a little bit of like doorway, so it doesn't seem like too abrupt and like an elephant in the room.
Yeah.
But I mean, it is what it is. I in terms of that, in terms of the movie, I hope it does well, and I hope that they keep going, because that movie is surrounded by a lot of controversy.
Yeah.
and it's a little bit disheartening because I just want them to finish the fucking the 5-part series.
Is Johnny Depp the only kind of controversy that
It's Johnny. It's Ezra Miller went to jail because he threatened to kill somebody. I think something like that. The guy who plays Credence in the movie, he's also the Flash. He was in a karaoke bar in Hawaii, and somebody didn't like. Somebody said something, and he was like, "Yo, I'm gonna kill you."
Trying to kill somebody. Oh
Yeah.
yes, I just saw that.
So
That's insane.
and then you have J.K. Rowling and all her trans controversy for the past for the
honestly,
past 2 years.
but this my thing with that is it's like I'm not entirely sure how we're making JK money right now with like how that
Well,
works.
she gets residuals and
I'm
royalties.
sure, yeah. So, which I don't know too much about it.
Yeah,
I don't know
and
enough to
that's
talk
gonna be,
about.
That's probably going to be a more in-depth conversation because it's going to last a long time for another time. But in terms of the Johnny Depp thing, I am very curious because
Yeah, I really like him.
yeah, he's the Flash and stuff. Yeah, let's
he
finish
came-
this off and then we'll
He
go.
came out in Perks of Being a Wallflower. I remember. I really like him.
Wait, appears to choke woman in video.
What?
Jesus. So he choked a woman in a bar.
No, this is a different one.
You sure?
This is in Iceland, and the one I'm talking about is in Hawaii.
Oh, okay, let's see.
Yeah, see, Ezra Miller arrested on Oscar Sundays at a karaoke bar in Hawaii.
So homeboy's been about that kind of life. Interesting. I don't think there's probably a video, is there?
No, there's no video there.
After altercation at bar led to harassment and disorderly conduct charges.
Oh.
A temporary restraining order.
Stole their stuff. That's ghetto behavior, sweetie.
Yeah.
It's real
When you
ghetto.
got money, you gotta fight your ghetto instincts.
You really
You
do.
can still eat ramen and shit. You can still eat maruchan, but you can't be acting like that.
You can put it in the microwave if you want, but
Yeah.
not,
You can't be.
don't be acting.
Yeah,
Foolish.
there's certain behavior. When you're rich,
Outlandish.
there's certain behaviors that are acceptable, and there's certain behaviors that are not acceptable.
Acting crazy for paparazzi and shit like that. Like
That's not acceptable. You
No,
can't
I
because you
mean,
gotta guard your money.
pulling
boo-boo.
like Britney Spears moves and like Amanda Bynes kind of situation.
Yeah, you gotta tone it down.
It's just whatever. But like,
Or like Will Smith at the Oscars, you gotta tone it down. You gotta restrain yourself. You
Right.
know what I mean? You can still eat like rice and tuna, but you can't be.
you choose some tuna and mayo.
You can still eat some applesauce sandwiches, but you can't be showing up like.
applesauce sandwich.
You ain't never had applesauce sandwiches?
What the fuck's wrong with you? Why?
Because we're poor.
What?
Because we ain't got nothing but bread. You always got bread. When you get the WIC, they give you hella bread.
They did give you hella bread.
And they gave you applesauce for no reason. Even if you're 9 years old, they used to give you applesauce whenever you're a baby. When you get the WIC, like that makes sense because like you can't chew on anything, so you just get a little applesauce, But then they keep giving it to you even after you're 8 or 9 years old. I'm like, what the
you
fuck I want
used
with
to-
I need
applesauce?
nutrition, not some
Yeah.
fucking
So
applesauce.
you used to eat.
Applesauce sandwiches.
I really want to know what poor like behaviors you keep on with your life. Like you
In my life right now?
You specifically, because you are a 30-year-old man now that has successfully done a lot of things.
Okay.
That it does not warrant you to be a poor person by all the means of the imagination.
I still got poor tendencies.
I know, and I would really like to know what they are because I got poor tendencies, but I live in the duplex, so like it's still slightly warranted for me to be a little.
Yeah, there would be no reason for me to continue acting that way except I can't help it in some
Creature
in
of
some instance.
nature.
Okay,
Yeah.
so what are like the three
Creature of
things?
habit.
That's the top 3 things that you do that you're like, these are some poor tendencies, and you're just like can't get over them, and they will never.
Well, in terms of diet, I'm not big on. I don't tend to like revolve my life around food and when I eat. So like I will eat if I'm like busy doing shit. I will eat the bare minimum. Like I will have like peanut butter and jellies stocked up and like. And I'll just be like, oh, I gotta go. I gotta be somewhere in 30 minutes. Like, let me just peanut butter and jelly this bitch, and then just like. And then I'll eat again like in another like 8 hours or something like that. Like I won't, and I guess that could be, I got, there's always peanut butter and jelly. So in terms of diet, there's some stuff like that. Like I like tuna and rice. Just like open up the tuna, get some rice, and just like eat the tuna and rice.
Okay.
When I lived at the duplex, I had like a schedule every day of the week. I had like places in town that had like specials. Like on Mondays,
which are wings.
Yeah, like on Mondays there was a place that had like 35-cent wings, so I'd only spend like $3.50 on some wings. And then on Tuesdays there was a place that sold $10 rotisserie chickens. So then I like good rotisserie chicken. So then I'd get that and I eat for 2 days. And then on Thursdays,
you used to eat lots of rotisserie chicken when you lived in the apartment. Actually, now that I think about it.
And then like on Thursdays, I'd go get like fried rice from Kin Sun, and that'll last me a good. You know what I mean? And if I wanted to splurge, I'd go get a bucket of chicken from like Churches or KFC or Popeyes or something, and that would last me a good minute too. Because I wasn't necessarily trying to eat like big meals or anything like that. So that's kind of like a poor tendency, you know. I haven't bought new clothes in a very long time.
Yeah, Mom was really judging you on that during your birthday. I didn't know this information, and she was like, "Your brother has not bought any clothes for the last couple of years." I was like,
"I haven't."
How do you? My question for her was like, "How do you even know that?" And she's like, "Don't you ever just see him?
I'm always wearing the same shit.
He's wearing the exact same thing."
And she criticizes me for it too, because I have clothes. I have clothes in there that I haven't worn in a very long time. And she's like, "Why don't you wear this?" And I'm like, "Oh, no."
Okay, but here's my thing. I do not criticize you for not buying new clothes or anything. I criticize you for the fact that you have so much. You have so much clothes. You have so many pairs of shoes. Like I organized the closet and like organized the shoes to try to make more space. And why do you have a pair of shoes covered in hair?
Oh, the brown ones?
Hair shoes.
First of all, don't be judging my shoe. I have collectibles.
You look like Bigfoot.
I have collectibles in there.
The Pumas with the gold lettering that says Puma, and they're brown, and they have the little
hair.
Hair.
Those are one of them. Yeah. Those are Adidas. But there's some other Pumas that have like low like that. They're Puma suedes that have like the little tiger fur. I know what you're talking about.
I know what you're talking about too. I remember.
But regardless, all of that stuff, and you wear a total of 3 shirts, like 5 different pairs of pants, and 2 pairs of shoes that you just rotate between. So why do you have all of it?
Juan had more of a tendency of being flamboyant whenever he was breakdancing. Because when y'all would breakdance, I distinctly remember it being like a really...
Image was a big deal.
It was like a very like cultural thing for you to be wearing like the newest fully red Pumas or the newest fucking leopard looking ones or whatever the hell. You have like a whole bunch of... I remember you have the tiger ones. I remember you have these like purple...
Man,
like,
I still have them up there. I've got like 3 Yo MTV Raps that I'm like, man, this is my pride and joy right now.
Before he left, or when you were moving out, you had left, or he had left literally all of your shoes. You had left every bit of your shoes in the room. And because I was moving up there, Mom was like, Taj, start taking out all his shoes. Bro, you had like a good amount. You had probably about almost 100 pairs of shoes.
Close to
it at the time. And this was a good like almost 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And I can't imagine the amount of shoes you've collected since then.
I've thrown a lot away, actually.
I know you've thrown a lot of them away because a lot of them were like...
But like, I wear my shit out.
You do. You wear them. That's what I'm saying. Like, a lot of them were like...
Like, I had to throw away some Air Max 90s that I really liked the other day because the whole fucking shit fell off. For real. I was at work like, yo, this is wild. And my whole shit was flapping about. So that's a poor tendency, I guess.
Really at your job.
Yeah.
With your shoes looking like that.
Dusty as hell. Yeah.
Fine. Them people like that.
For real. Yeah. I'm not like big superficial like that. Like I could have bought a super nice car a long time ago and like shown up places and like I got a little hoopty. And I don't be paying attention to it either. Like
honestly, I don't know why that car still works because it should not.
Because that car believes in me. Because that car believes in me the way I believe in her.
Wait, is that the first car that you ever like bought yourself?
No, I paid for a white car for my parents, and then that got totaled. And then I paid for another white car. It was a salvage car. I helped my then ex-girlfriend at the time, and then she crashed it.
Okay, but that wasn't for you though. I'm saying like for you to.
No, but it was like for.
So
it
like
was for us.
the car that they bought from selling a property.
Okay.
And so yeah.
I was gonna make a point because I had a car, like the first car that I ever bought for myself, the little Mustang that I had it for multiple years, and that thing, it like every mechanic I took it to, they were like, "Why did you buy this car?" Because it had like a ticking in the engine, and they're like, "Who knows? This thing might run for you for a little while, but at some point, it might be tomorrow, it might be years from now, it's going to blow up on you." That car lasted me until the day after I bought my van. As soon as I bought my van, the next day the power steering ran out. I was driving it to a mechanic, and then the engine blew up. Not like blew up, but like, you know, it was like smoking on fire, wouldn't drive, had to like push it off of the busy street.
I mean, I know exactly what you mean. The car that I had before mine, the one that I just bought, I was going out of the freeway and it just turned off. Like the
was this before? No, this was before you got your car though, right?
Yeah, this was a really long time ago.
Yeah,
this happened like a really long time, and I've been I was really rooting for that car. Like I was really rooting to like, I'm like, look, if I really don't have to spend this much money, if I don't gotta pay insurance, if I don't gotta pay for this note, as long as I possibly can. And then it was causing me just a little too much anxiety to be like freaking out about whether or not I was gonna make it to work.
Yeah,
at any given time.
I mean, I understand the anxiety,
but
like,
no.
There's some poor tendencies but it's like a lot of like there's some tendencies that I have because they're poor tendencies because I'm like, yo, I grew up like this, I can't help it. Like the food, like I have a tough time like giving up certain things because I'm like, no, what if I need it later? Yeah. Like I you know what I mean? So I might hoard a little bit of some stuff every now and then. But even then, I'm trying to think like. Can you think of something that, that I do that it's like we're like, oh yeah, that's.
I have a couple poor tendencies. I feel like my biggest, and actually kind of start spreading it around to people, is I keep all the little like ketchup packets and stuff.
Okay, yeah, I don't do that.
I do that. I do that at work. So like now, every time because we order out a lot at work. So once we go pick up our food and everybody gets their stuff, any leftover like barbecue packets, any
but I do value
stuff like that. I like, we literally have a bowl full of them now because in my mind I have to think about it like mom. That's like, what if I have to bring a hot dog to work and I need ketchup? Like, so, and I'm not about to bring a whole thing of ketchup with me. So like, it's just like this tendency of like, don't throw it away if you don't have to.
Yeah. Okay. You know? I will say, I think I have that one too, which is funny because it's like, there are some things that I do that he doesn't follow that like even like the toothpaste will like get to the end of the tube.
Yeah.
And like there's still like a little bit left in there, but like he's just ready to move on to the next tube. He's just like, oh, I'm just gonna like get in it, and I'm over here like squeezing the shit out of it and like opening the cap and like until the last drop comes out.
I'm sure I do. I'm sure I have a ton. You know what I mean? But like I have to make a differentiation because some of them are like, oh, I got some poor tendencies, and then others are like, This is a personal choice. This is a choice that I'm making currently right now, not because I can't do something otherwise, but because one, the having something nicer is not important enough to me.
Okay.
That it justifies doing it just for the sake of getting something nice.
Okay.
And two, on a financial level, it makes more sense to me and my goals to be more frugal about certain things.
Of course. Yeah.
Just so that I can make other things happen.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Well, yeah, you've always been like that.
My car, as much as people really people really have a right to hate on me for my car. Moms be doing it like it's a hoopty, but I love that car and I won't give it up. And like at least at the moment, because it's got a whole bunch of fucked up shit wrong with it, and it's affected me in like optics wise, right? Like we've talked about like dates and like things like that. Like I've had that dog for a long time. Like believe me, like women have been like looked at my car and been like, yo, like I'm not sure if I want to like do, like, you know what I mean?
Yes.
Which is totally fair. I get it. Like, you know, people want to be superficial and like I can't get mad at you for it or whatever. Like but I've always had like very specific goals. So I'm just like, do I get a new whip, even if it's like a cheap one, even if it's like whatever, like, or do I use that money instead to try to do like this and this and that? And I oftentimes, more often than not, will choose like getting like new equipment, getting new camera stuff, getting new, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like I haven't bought clothes in a long time. I haven't been like, and I will if I need to, but like, you know, I will keep it as bare minimum as possible, and I wouldn't even necessarily consider myself a true minimalist, but I will keep it as minimal as possible, just because I've got other goals, other things that I'm trying to accomplish. That I'm just like, those take priority.
This is definitely something that you do now, because there was a good moment in time that I remember that you would like shop at Banana Republic all the time.
Yeah, that was awesome.
And like you would always come in with like, these new coats and clothes that were more expensive, higher quality, all these other things.
Best believe if I go buy clothes, I'm gonna go buy some nice clothes.
Yeah.
Like, you know.
And like, for instance, I also think it has to do with your age though, because you're 30 years old, so you think about things way differently than you did when you were 23.
Sure.
So while you might have the same goals that you might have had at 23 years old and at 30 years old, the way that you chose to do certain things might have, like the situations that you were in as a 23-year-old might have affected you a little bit differently than they do now.
Yeah. Yes and no. I would say yes. You're right. Like at 23, I might have like, you know, flossed out a little bit more. And
I mean,
that was always my taste.
You bought that car when you could have bought a cheaper one. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And at the time, that car was a little bit better.
And you were like, oh yeah, I have to. You know, you wanted to have a nicer looking car. And the clothes that I've always worn, the shoes that I've always worn, like I don't necessarily have like cheap taste. No, you don't.
You know, even like the liquor that I like, the watches that I like, things like that. But like, are they necessary? Right now, probably not.
And I definitely feel like it changed as you were getting older and you started being
I wouldn't even say it changed as me getting older. It changed whenever I was fed up with not having the not being closer to the goals that I wanted.
So not necessarily with age.
Yeah, it's not because I like matured. It was because I was like, no, I want to accomplish this, and I can't get there if I do this or if I do that or if I do this or like this is getting in the way or like spending too much on food or spending this and that. So like I had to like then kind of like change and discipline myself a little bit differently. And Bree could be a testament to this, because when we were at the duplex 2 years ago, I just showed up one day. Actually, no, I mentioned it a couple months back. Like,
you were buying a house
during the pandemic. Like, I think I'm gonna buy a house, and then like that conversation didn't go anywhere. And then like 4 months later, I was like, we gotta go.
You come in with boxes and shit, and you're like, hey, we gotta start packing for what?
We gotta buy.
My house is like
my house just got done being built.
Yeah,
like. It wasn't even like, you know what I mean? And now we're here, and it's a badass house. And so like, it's one of those things, like if you judge me off my hoopty, you'll be like, yo, this boy is dusty. But if you judge me off my house, you're like, oh, what do you do for a living?
Yeah,
you know what I mean? And then you hear what I do for a living, and you're like, wait, how'd you manage to pull that off? Because I can. Because you guys, you know what I mean?
I know.
That's the point that I'm making, is that like a lot of the things that I have done, certain behaviors in those ambitions, you can label them as poor tendencies, but I would label them more as like me understanding that I don't have the kind of access that somebody else would have. So I have to discipline myself a little differently in order to be able to achieve some of the things that I want to achieve.
You're very disciplined.
Right.
You're a very disciplined person.
But I will say that growing up poor helped. Because if I had grown up in a very specific kind of lifestyle, going below that and having to accustom myself to behaviors that like are attributed to being poor might have been like an ego trip. You know what I mean? But I was always very comfortable being like, oh, like I'm running low on funds, or I can't spend that money because in a month I have to do this and this and that. Okay, so we're just gonna buy like 69-cent tunas and just like grow up on those for a week.
And like, you know what's crazy though? Like that, it's so funny though, because you say that you're like, you grew up poor or grew up, and we technically grew up together, but like I don't have that same mentality.
Yeah, you don't.
Because I grew up with everything. Like. Yeah. Mom and dad had everything at my disposal when I was hitting the ages where it mattered.
Or where you could remember
where
things,
I could remember, or where it was actually affecting my social consciousness. Like
When you were born, we were still struggling.
Well, y'all were in
struggling.
the little house, didn't have nothing. And then when I was getting into the age of like my preteens and teenage years, I had my own room. I had my own restroom. I had a phone. I had a computer. I had everything. I had a meal every single day.
I didn't get a cell phone until I was 17 when I left the house.
And I had a phone at like 12.
Right.
11.
I didn't have my own room until I was like maybe 13 or something like that. Something like that. I shared a room with mom and dad for the first like 8 years. Yeah. 8 years. And with you also, because you were born, I was 6. So even after that, like we didn't move into the house in Second Ward until a while from there, and even then, like
y'all still stayed living
we all
in the same
were
room.
Just sharing a room together. So
those experiences shaped you because you remember them. I don't know about them because I was a baby.
Those experiences sucked a lot. Like you look back and you're like, man, that shit was wild. Yeah. Like we were really struggling. But in terms of like my goals and where I want to go in my life, I have to say that they've been kind of helpful.
And because, I do think so.
Because in times where I've had to be like, you know what, I'm gonna buckle down for a year. A year's a long time. And that's, you know what I'm saying? A year, and like people say like, oh, that time flies, and it does retrospectively, right? But if you tell yourself right now, a year from now, I want like X, Y, and Z. That's hard.
That's hard.
Because that's 52 weeks. That's 365 days. That's a lot of habits that you have to put together. That's a lot of like thinking ahead.
Stuff,
right? So like the fact that I spent six years essentially building from like my sophomore year in college to, let's say, when I bought the house.
Yeah.
Right? Like I spent like 6 years trying to build for that. And that.
And you limited yourself a lot.
Oh, hell yeah. I was like limited. I would force myself to be like.
All the time how much like she talks about it a lot, being like, no, your brother wanted what he wanted and he made that shit work. However limited he had to be living.
I was driving before this car, I was driving like that old green minivan that was busted up inside.
I remember that.
And like the fucking, you would touch the console and the whole console will fall off. and then no AC. And I was going to U of H on that bitch.
Like, and it was like in your eyes all the time.
Dusty as hell. Like it would get you. I was going to U of H in that.
Yeah.
And like.
And you see, I want to call it like a spoiled mentality because I feel like I have been spoiled a lot, especially me as the girl.
Yeah, you're the only girl. So.
Yeah, I have been spoiled in ways that are very interesting, and they haven't been particularly ways that I've, like now that I look at it as like an older person with a kid and everything, I'm like, damn, like I wish I hadn't been treated this way. Because it makes it hard for me to form habits like those that you have formed.
This is what I'm saying. Like,
because I can't. It's hard for me to get out of the idea of like, but what if I want to shop?
Right. Or it feels like a downgrade. Like, what if I can't? What if I have to live off of rice and tuna for a week?
Yeah, and
it's just like, man, like in the moment you're doing it, and you're like, even though nobody's watching you, in the moment you're like, fuck, like. If you're only used to a certain lifestyle, it makes you feel like, man, I'm really struggling out here. To me, where I would do it, and I'd be like watching TV.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? It wouldn't faze me in the slightest.
To me, like now, it phases me, but it bothers me that it phases me. So like it leaves me.
You have to catch yourself. Yeah, you know what I mean? You have to like give yourself a little ego check.
And I
like,
literally am constantly
you're not too good for this.
And like constantly going back and forth between like Marce, like. It's not a big deal that you have to be doing this for yourself. On the contrary, if you keep doing this for yourself, you're going to reap a reward that you can't even imagine at this moment. So just keep doing it. But it comes I feel like at a harder rate for me to try and understand that, to the point where it feels like if I were to conquer something like that, I would be very much like, wow, I'm really proud of myself. Because there's very few things that I'm proud of myself for doing, just because I'm like a lot of the things.
Discipline is something you should definitely be proud of yourself.
Yes, and I don't have that. So like I know it. Like I'm working towards it, but I know that at the moment there is a lot of things that I can't feel proud of simply because a lot of them were given to me, and a lot of them were if it wasn't given to me, the path was made for me and I just had to walk it.
Yeah,
It wasn't like, I think the only thing that has been relatively like on my own has just been raising my kid.
But that's just a big deal, though.
Yeah.
That's still a big fucking deal. Because motherfuckers be out here hella bad parents. And, and they got money. Like, you know, so.
That's true. I mean,
so that's that's another thing. But to that point, there has to always be like an ego check.
Yeah,
and I was always very comfortable. I think because my endeavors, my goals have always been artistic in nature.
Mm-hmm.
They've never necessarily been. I've never had a goal. And me and Bree talk about this on and off extensively. We've talked about this for years now, but I've never had like a financial goal. Like, you know how people are like, oh, I want to be a millionaire. Or like, oh, I want to like, you know what I mean? I want to have access and I want to have money and I want to be in that because that money buys things and fancy things and friendships and like, you know what I mean? I can give a fuck about any of that. Yeah. Like I don't have like a financial goal. I don't have like a thing where like in 5 years I want to be able to like afford this, right? In 5 years I want to buy this, or in 5 years my bank account needs to look like this. I can give a fuck about that.
Yeah.
I have more goals that are artistic in nature. Things like the album that I wrote or the albums that I've written, right? And how to put that out. And not only how to put that out, but how to like put that out artistically, the vision of it. Then that in and of itself, it's like a very easy like slippery slope to like, okay, well now you have to learn about camera equipment. So I went to school for that. And then, so like everything is tethered to more and more of these artistic endeavors. Yeah. So like if my real goal is I just want to be as artistic as I want to be and have these things put out, whether it's dancing, whether it's circus, whether it's music, whether it's media, whatever it is, right? Like if that's my actual goal, then getting the money is just like a means to an end, right? Yeah. I need the big amount of capital. I need the expensive house so that I can use that as a stepping stone for something else. I need to be in the hoopty for 10 years so that I can not have to have a car note. Yeah. So that I can spend that, you know, fucking $5,000 a year on something else. Yeah. That I can, you know what I mean? Yeah, for sure. All of that to me is just like, they're not necessarily even sacrifices. I don't even see them as sacrifices. Whereas like, we've talked about dating before, right? Like I've been in situations where I've really had to ego check myself and I've had to tell myself, man, like what kind of person do you want to be? What kind of man are you? What kind of person are you trying to become or whatever? And in that moment, I have like a thing where I'm like, oh, I am 100% aware of how I am as a person and what I bring to the table. But optically wise, you might see me and you might judge me and be like, oh, like, I don't trust that. Like, I'm here in my life and I'm trying to level up and I don't think you could help me. I'm not mad at the women in my life that have in the past made that decision. Yeah. Because I didn't have, I optically, you couldn't see what I had to offer. Yeah. You know what I mean? But the lack of visual representation of success was a personal choice on my end because I was like, no, I'm trying to build for this. Yeah. And it's cool if you don't want to take the time to like see that that's what I wanted to do. It's not a big deal. Yeah. Like, because I'm going to do it anyway, whether you're here or you're not, whether my friends are here or my friends are not, whether my parents are here or my parents are not. You know what I mean? Like, I'm going to go for it anyway. You're proof of that. Like, I've never needed like, most of the time I've always done it by myself, to be honest. You know what I mean? So, that's probably why whenever it came to those disciplinary things that you had to, it never felt like a sacrifice, and it's never felt like, oh, I'm giving up something in order to get something in return. Like, to me, it's just like, no, that's what I have to do in order to do what I want. And like the lack of being able to do what I want feels worse than the sacrifice of like the lack of AC in my car.
See, you know what I mean? I feel like it's so weird for me because I feel like I've always actually done better when I've had less income, only because of the fact that like I was capable of being more disciplined when I was poor, more like, you know, and not
it forces you.
Yeah, because like
Yeah.
as soon as I started to get money, I all of a sudden was like, oh, okay, well I can treat myself. And that's where I became like bad at being disciplined. Once I had money, being able to keep the money, or think of like, oh, okay, well right now you have this much in your account and you can like have some like, you know, immediate, you know, enjoyment with like going and buying new clothes or something, or you can save that and like build it to get like these bigger things that you want. That was much harder on me. When I had no money, I knew I had no money. So I knew, even food wise, I was like, yo, I'm getting chicken and rice because that is all I can afford. And I know I need nutrition. If I don't get this chicken, like, and I just spend it on some like junk food, I'm not going to have any energy, you know? So like I wouldn't eat crap at the time because I was like, I can't afford ice cream.
You know, there's some. If you follow, I don't follow these people specifically, but I've seen clips online that like they'll sponsor or whatever. They'll like put money into marketing. These like .com and self-made like millionaires and like real estate moguls and stuff like that. One of the advices that they give people that are trying to get to being a multi-millionaire, not just a millionaire, like tens of hundreds of millions of dollars. They say, force yourself to get your bank account to zero. Like move money other places and like make it to where like you can't access that money, and then force your bank account to be like, like force the thing where you can actually spend, force that to be as low as possible. Yeah. Because it'll force you to get into like a survival mentality. And like,
and you know what? That's really true. Because
I don't operate that way. I can't do that.
I have to do it that way. Because this is the thing. I think again, it goes back to discipline. I am not disciplined enough to do that kind of stuff.
And maybe that's good advice if you're not disciplined.
If there is money in my account, I'm gonna spend it.
See, and
I will. In fact, I did a purchase today that I was really not supposed to do. For no fucking reason.
No reason.
Well, I will
get your shit together.
I will also add, I am slightly unhinged and am like going through shit mentally, and that like boost of serotonin when I buy something truly is not good in the long run.
Ooh,
but momentarily, it feels so good because it feels like I just chose to do something when I can't control anything else.
And I understand that 100%. I don't think it's an excuse, but I understand it 100%. Yeah. And here is where I get lucky, because that's true. In moments of like down, let's say like I'm gonna keep going back to the dating thing because that's a very powerful thing, right? Yeah. Whenever you're trying to, as a man especially, whenever you're trying to show your worth to somebody and they judge you based on everything except what you're saying. You know what I mean?
Okay, yeah.
And that can be like a really, like you can get home at the end of the night and be like, fuck, man, like, am I really that bad? Am I really like a piece of shit? Am I really, you know what I mean? So then, where that serotonin will come in, that impulse buy or whatever, that might turn into like, you know what? I need that BMW.
Yeah.
I need to get that I need to get the, you know what I mean? Even if I still lived at the duplex, I might have shown up in the BMW and like, I would have been more received better on whatever date, on whatever, you know, this and that. If I picked you up in like a, you know, whatever nice car, right? And people might be like, oh, you know what I mean? But the only reason I didn't buy into that is because I get my serotonin in other places.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The artist in me, I get my highs on everything except vices.
God bless you.
You know what I mean? I've been like really lucky in the sense that like alcohol doesn't do it for me.
Yeah. Okay.
Drugs don't do it for me.
Yeah.
As fun as they can be, they don't do it for me. Women don't do it for me, right? Like pussy, like how people talk about like just sex or whatever, like that doesn't do it for me. Gambling doesn't do it for me. As much as I've paid for school, like I paid for college gambling, like doesn't do it for me. In terms of like feeling alive, never done it for me. The things that make me feel the best has always been my artistic endeavors. So I will go to great lengths. Like in the same way that you might be like, this is highly irresponsible of me, I may be like, this is highly crazy of me, but I'm going to do it anyway. Yeah. Right? My senior thesis in college, I transformed my entire living room.
Oh, yes. I remember that.
Into like a fucking spider web.
Yeah.
And like, I couldn't bring anybody over for like 9 months to my place because I fucked that place up. for an artistic purpose, right? And every night I was taking photographs. Every night I was adding more things to it. It was like a 9-month performance piece.
Yeah.
Performance art piece for the most part. And when I was done with it and I edit it and I see them, my portfolio's online. People can go see it. But like,
yeah,
when you see, whenever I like saw it and like described it and like all of the serotonin, like I felt all of the pleasure, felt all of the thing. I'm like, man, I feel like fucking phenomenal.
For somebody like you who is a creative, I for one wouldn't consider myself a creative because I don't think I have a lot of creative endeavors that I feel like could be valuable in creative spaces. And I have a lot of creative knowledge and maybe ability to be, I'm good at drawing. I'm good at painting. I'm good at doing all those things and whatever. Or expression through makeup or SFX or whatever you want to call it. There's a lot of things that I could do that with, but I don't have anything in particular that calls my name out to that extent.
And that's not necessarily bad.
Yeah, no. So like to me, I'm just kind of going with whatever I feel is good. And I dabble in too many things to be able to feel like there's one particular thing that I'm interested in. But I will say, going back onto the whole dating thing that you were talking about, the reason why today's purchase was made, because this purchase was actually in my basket all week long. There was stuff that I was like, oh, I kind of want to do this, I kind of whatever. And I was texting my friend and I was like, I need you to convince me not to buy this shit. And she would just text and be like, you don't need it. Like, why are you doing that? We're going to go on a trip soon. Like, you don't need to be buying all this extra shit. I was like, you're right. I'm about to go spend some money on this. I just bought 2 tickets to go see 2 different artists. I'm very excited. That's all I need to spend money on this week, right? Not a big deal. And yesterday I had like a momentary like bajón. Like, I don't know how to say that in English, but it was just like
just a little low moment.
A little low moment from a date that I went on. And I was just like, whoa, like, and it like was processing all night to me. And then it was processing today in the morning. And I was like, man, I really want something. And I was like, fuck it. And I just like pressed bought.
It's real.
And I got it.
Yeah, I didn't want to cut you off. I didn't hear. Okay. So I've also felt like, I feel like anytime, going back to the idea of like, I've done really well when I've been poor and broke. Not only just like poor and broke, but also thinking about it like in bad mental states. All of a sudden that's when like I make these big decisions or something. And oftentimes I'll like end up doing really well from that. Yeah. But talking with my therapist, some therapy talk here, she very specifically was like, yo, you have to learn to be able to do all of these good things
without having
in
to
your
be in
good
a low
mentality as well. Otherwise, you're going to start relating all of the good things that happen to you to you being in a bad space.
Agree.
Yeah.
And like, and then you're just going to purposely put yourself in these bad situations and in this bad space just so you can feel like you're productive again.
Absolutely
like you're pushing yourself and doing like
at least subconsciously. Subconsciously
without
you
realizing
might
it.
You know what? That's actually so true. That's 100% true, because this happens to me. This actually was happening to me throughout these last 2-ish or like 1 year and a half that I've been single, and I've been separated from my ex from a tricky situation there. And it's funny because you would think that at no point in time do you want to ever feel the dreading, hurtful feelings that you feel when you're breaking up with somebody and when you're going through the separation and all this stuff. But as being in a better space now, you would be like, Marce, like, you're doing great. Like,
feels liberating.
I'm doing great right now. I'm financially there. My kid's doing fine. I'm doing fine. I'm there's little things here and there that might be bringing me down sometimes, but at the end of the day, my mentality has changed to the point where I can tell myself, it's like, you're fine, move on. We got to keep it going. You know what I mean? Which I used to never be able to do. But there are times where I will think to myself and I'll be like, man, I want to feel that pain again. Like, I want to cry like I cried when I was going through the heartbreak. Why? Because after that heartbreak is when I got my mentality to change more. And so going back,
you're searching for that liberation feeling.
So like you said, like I am associating this pinnacle and like revolutionary moment in my life to where I got better to me feeling really, really, really sad
Well,
and like down.
To say your point a little bit more, less self-deprecating. It's hard to get better from better.
Yeah.
It's easy to get better from nothing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, absolutely.
And that's probably more of what you're talking about. Like, if you're doing well, it's hard to do better than well because you have to envision what well is first.
Yeah, of course.
Right? It's easy to get better from nothing because when you have nothing, anything is better than nothing.
Anything is better than nothing, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
When you're at like the worst, anything is better than the worst.
And I do feel like,
you know?
Because of that mentality, unfortunately, I do find myself putting myself in situations that make me feel sad again, or for instance, as somebody who like goes through anxiety a lot, sometimes I'll put myself in situations that you're like, why would you, as somebody who has anxiety, why would you do that? But it's because in a weird way I feel where I grow a little, even if it's
but
just
I feel
a little bit.
I would say that that's healthy. Because
it
depends on the situation.
I suppose
but
because
I don't think anxiety is bad.
Well, I'll do it with anxiety and I'll do it with my depression. So I don't think
that's a little bit different.
Yeah,
Depression is a little bit different. But
don't,
anxiety is a feeling.
And
it's exactly like sadness. Like sadness is a feeling. Depression is a medical condition.
Yeah, but
right?
so
and
anxiety
disorder
yeah.
is a medical condition. But just because you have anxiety doesn't mean you have a disorder. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
You could also have a disorder. You could you could get diagnosed with an anxiety disorder.
Yeah.
That's fine, right? But like putting yourself in situations that give you anxiety is not the same as saying I have an anxiety disorder, therefore I can't do this. That's a very different conversation. If you put yourself in situations that make you uncomfortable, that is the only way that you will grow.
And
that is the only way that you will get better.
I feel like that's all cool and it's very true. And I think the reason why I feel like a lot of the things I do I shouldn't be doing as much is just because I have a kid. Because I feel like
that's fair. That's a kind of a different conversation.
Because I feel like even though it's true that like you're saying like anxiety, putting myself in a situation where I might not be as comfortable, which I have done, and I'm doing. There are times.
For reference, I'm not necessarily saying that every situation that gives you anxiety is the best situation.
Yeah.
They could be really bad. You know what I mean? I'm just saying that, like, if it makes you uncomfortable to go back to school, or if it makes you uncomfortable to go and take a class, or if it makes you uncomfortable to go and make that decision that you've always been curious about, that you're like, it's going to make you uncomfortable. Yeah. That's what I mean. Yeah. I don't necessarily mean like the anxiety you feel if like you decide to like do a lot of drugs one night. That's a very different type of situation.
No, that's not really. You know what I mean? I'm not really leaning towards that.
I'm not saying that's what you're doing. I'm just saying like I have to be really clear about that distinction about like discomfort.
Yes,
is part of the process of getting somewhere new.
Yes,
I'm not saying somewhere better. Even somewhere new. Even if it's in the same like lateral plane. Even somewhere new, you have to put yourself in uncomfortable positions, right? Stagnation never brings anything, right? Consistency can bring something, but stagnation doesn't. Those are two different things.
And to me, like I always waver with the thought of like, am I doing a little too much? And constantly thinking of maybe I'm doing a little too much and I have a kid that I need to be looking out for. Or,
that's fair.
You know, and so as much as I would love to be able to one of these days just be like, oh, let my creativeness lead me towards where I need it to go, and let that be my form of serotonin, or let that be what's guiding me through the world and life or whatever. Can't do that because I have a child and I have a child of which I'm solely financially supporting. So it's like, to me, that idea of like, I want money is real. Like I want like
100%.
And like, and it's not, and I don't mean it in the sense of like how you say like you're the means to get you to where you want to go. I genuinely mean I want to be rich just so I don't have to feel like I can't support my child.
I guess so.
You know
I guess
what
so.
I mean?
That comes out of fear.
Yes, out of fear. 100% out of fear.
That desire comes out of fear. I look at it a different way.
Of course,
the goal is not me being rich. I have a fear of failing. I have a fear of like I have a fear of like not being received well. I have a fear of being a bad artist. I have a fear of being poor again. I have a fear of not being able to like do the things that I love to do. Yeah, 100%. But I feel like if I like being rich is not the solution to that for me. You know what I mean? Being I might one day be rich as a result of doing
everything
this.
You've done, yes.
It'll just be a byproduct of what I want to do.
Yeah.
It won't be the goal. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like other people do things to get rich. I'll get rich to do things.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like the difference is that if your goal is to be rich, that whatever thing you did to get there, you'll leave it alone and find another thing and like that. I will never leave the things that I want to do alone.
Yeah.
Just because of money.
Yeah.
I will let the money go just so that I can keep doing these things.
And
you know what I
it's
mean?
Crazy.
And I've shown and proved that a lot
you have.
in my life. Like
you really
when
have.
it comes to relationships, I've let people go because I'm just like, nah, I'm not giving that up.
Yeah.
No, hands down.
Yeah.
Even when they make good points, like you have nothing to show for it.
Yeah.
I'm like, I know I don't. Not right now.
Yeah.
Not right now. And you don't have to believe me that I'm going to have something to show for it. You don't have to stick by me when I do have something to show for it. But I'm committed to that.
Yeah.
And I'd rather not be committed to you. That's how much
That's
I'm
important to you,
I'm
yes.
so invested in the things that I want to do. You know
and
what I mean?
It's not
money,
think,
tens of thousands of dollars. I'm like, go, bye.
Yeah, and to
Fine.
me,
You know?
I feel like maybe had I not had a child so young, I probably would have been in that boat and been because
that matters. Yeah.
Because there was a lot of things that I envisioned doing that obviously did not include a child at the ages that I was hoping to do them in were around this time, around
Right.
23 years old, around the time I was in college and everything of that sorts. So since everything kind of got flipped over, it became to where I'm like, I want to make money to where I don't know how or care really much how it gets done, but I want to make money. I want to have equity. I want to have financial
Equity's a
success
good word.
and freedom. To be able to one of these days just be like, okay, my money's making my money. I want to be able to take my child to school.
Right.
Like I want to be able to make sure that I know for the rest of this year my child won't ever have to worry about where her food's gonna come from.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Or even just in the simplest ways of like, because there's been times even now where I will be like, I can't eat today because I gotta feed my kid. Which
Right.
is scary. It's like a scary, for a 23-year-old, that's kind of scary because you're doing it alone and you're like, oh shit. Like there'll literally be times where I'm like, fuck, I'm fucking hungry, but I don't have the means to buy more groceries, meaning I can only buy the
Right.
things my kid likes because my kid is so like specific because of what she is or whatever, to where it's like, all right, cool, my she's not eating tonight. And it's just like, whatever.
Right.
And also, unfortunately for me now, it's the ego thing of not wanting to tell you, not wanting to tell mom, not wanting to tell dad, not wanting to tell nobody because
you're not alone there, because I did it for a long time. I didn't tell mom and dad. I didn't tell a lot of people a lot of things.
Because I was like, no, like I want to know that I'm doing this shit on my own.
Yeah.
If that means I'm starving tonight, I'm starving tonight.
Exactly.
because
Because that means I don't eat.
I mean, if I'm not eating tonight, so my kid can eat, and I don't have to ask my brother for a fucking slice of bread, I'm sorry, but I won't do it. Like,
Right.
and it's
a little bit of pride there too.
It's slightly, yeah. I do think it's a bit of pride, but I also think that was something I didn't used to do. I was very reliant.
It's character development.
Yeah, I was
That's what
very
that is.
reliant on all of you guys to just kind of help me if I needed something.
One of the things that I remember specifically in like I'm the worst with self-help. I'm sorry, like I'm the worst with like if people ask me like how do you do it? Because people have asked me, you know what I mean? Like Juan,
I've
you
asked
always
you.
seem like you got it together. Like you always say, I'm the worst at giving people advice. I really am, because I feel like what people would consider my superpower is also my kind of like my Achilles heel at the same time, right? Like people have said your superpower is that you're very confident. Like I can't picture myself failing, even though I have a fear of failing. The fear comes from the fact that like you can't control luck.
Yeah.
That's the one factor that you can't control. So I might just get unlucky, right? You know, but there is nothing no, there's zero doubt in my mind that I can't do what I want to do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That I'm not capable of doing it, or that I wouldn't be good at it. Like, that is something that I don't necessarily struggle with in terms of like self-image, and in terms of like being self-deprecative, deprecative or whatever. My self-deprecation and my self-destructiveness comes from pain, not from hypothetical situations.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It still exists, and it could be very bad. I've succumbed to it a lot, but it doesn't come from those fear-based hypotheticals. It comes from like actual tangible, like that felt horrible.
Yeah.
And then I might spend months there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And to the point that we made earlier about how like the serotonin for me, and how you kind of force yourself to get back into bad situations so you can feel the liberation or whatever. I don't do that. I will like fully engulf myself in like whenever something is bad, I will fully engulf myself in it. And then whenever I decide to make art about it, I will reference back to it.
Yeah.
Once it's already said and done. Right? So like something happens, like, I don't know, let me just to be like simple for cheesy sake, right? Like, let's say somebody breaks my heart. I'm not writing a song the next day.
No, of course. Yeah.
You know what I mean? I might reference back to that moment 3 years from that day and pick something out of that moment that was really powerful.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And let that be the
But even
guiding.
then, I still won't talk about that thing. I won't talk about that experience. I might just pick something specific out.
Yeah.
This little moment, this little feeling, this little detail, this little whatever, right? So it's not immediate in the sense that like I'm using my direct experiences. I will fully feel that shit out, and I will fully go into it. Like I will fully be like super, 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 super self-destructive. You know what I mean? What do you guys need? Whatever you need, I can get it for you. What do you need? Okay. Sorry. No worries. I can just cut it.
He's probably drunk.
You was drinking earlier?
Yeah, they've been drinking since they were getting the little eggs about 6 hours ago.
Okay. Well, anyway, like I will fully engulf myself in that thing, and then I'd use it a lot later. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think when I said that about myself, I just think I very specifically, like when I'm going through something and I feel kind of going back to what you said before about like being able to control one thing when you were talking about like being able to buy something.
Yeah.
It's just this idea of like if I'm struggling with a lot of other things, there's like one thing that I can control.
Yeah.
So for a long time, it was like I was struggling with a whole lot, and like circus was the thing that I could control. My training was I just like threw so much into that so that I could forget about everything else, and it's just a distraction tactic. But I did so well with that. I
feel that. I feel that 100%.
But the hard part is then when I also start to like struggle with circus, and circus is the thing that I'm struggling with. Instead of being able to like focus on that and being like, no, I'm going to get my shit together. Instead, like right now, my biggest thing is being distracted by trying to clean. So I just like go crazy about like, I'm just going to clean everything. So I've been like, great about that. I'm like, great. I feel great about, getting my shit together on that side, but everything else is a mess. So just like very like distraction tactic for my brain, and sometimes it works well in my.
I do the same. I do.
And you know what though? I can't be that way. Like I really struggle with being able to focus on anything. So it being work, it being even. Like somebody told me, they were like, oh, like you seem to be a really great mom, and you seem to be have your life together and blah blah. And I was like, I think, and I specifically said, I was like, I think there's a big misconception with me having a child, and it seeming like because I have the child, I somehow have my life together because I'm doing it alone and on my own.
Yeah.
When in reality, it's like I don't really understand how she's doing what she's doing and how I'm somehow able to let her continue living, because genuinely I'm not doing really much to keep her alive at the moment.
Yeah, but motherhood specifically has a bad misconception also because there's different just types of motherhood.
Yeah, so
You know what I mean?
so like with me, and especially because she's autistic, it gives people the impression that for some reason somehow I'm doing these miraculous things with her because, oh my God, like you have an autistic child, you must be going through it every day. And I'm like,
That's just them projecting that they can't, like they can't picture themselves having an autistic child.
yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean?
And it's interesting for me to hear it and see it. And again, this might just be my own inability to also just acknowledge a lot of the stuff that I've done and being very like you're saying self-deprecating, whatever.
Yeah.
Just for various reasons and whatever. And I'm slightly aware of that. But it's not as like miraculous as it seems.
Nothing ever is.
Like, so like people are really giving me, like, I have friends that are like, oh my God, I you know, so proud of you. I'm looking like, I look up to you so much and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, dude, I'm literally doing nothing. Like,
Right.
I don't really.
Things are always so anticlimactic.
Very.
Like things are like, and that has probably been the biggest thing that I've had to learn in passing is just like, oh, that was my goal at one point. And when I achieved it, I get there and I'm like, this doesn't feel anything like what I thought my goal was supposed to feel like.
Of course.
Back then I would glamorize it, I would romanticize it, and it would feel like this grandiose thing.
Mm-hmm.
I have a picture of myself and like, you know, and fireworks were going off and like, you know what I mean? Shit like that. And like, you know what I mean? And then I got there and I'm like, oh, okay, well, what now? What do I do now? You know what I mean? So things are always a lot more anticlimactic than what we originally aspire them to feel like or look like. And most people get like really depressed by that. Or maybe not depressed.
Down,
most people get like feel let down by that.
Yeah.
I feel empowered by that. And I because I'm like, oh, where
It's
people
not that hard to just get there,
where people would say, oh man, I was expecting this to feel this way. I'm a little disappointed. I say something like, oh, this doesn't feel that different
From what I
than
usually-
this.
yeah.
That means that should I ever achieve this, it's gonna feel like today.
That's attainable.
So
Yeah.
bet like that's not
Yeah,
that you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's not going to make or break me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I finished my album. I heard it all the way through for the first time. I cried. I was like, man, oh my God. Like, and it's been 2.5, almost 3 years since I did it. I still haven't put it out completely because of COVID and all this crazy things. I'm trying, again, it's a lot harder when you're doing it all by yourself. But I remember hearing it and I'm like, this doesn't feel like what I thought it was going to feel like.
Yeah.
Right. And because of that, I'm like, ooh. And since then I've written 2 more.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, oh, like, let's just keep that shit going.
Yeah.
It doesn't make, you know what I mean? And I remember telling myself, and I know that this sounds wild, right? But like, in terms of goal building, again, remember, like nothing, to me, nothing is, there's nothing that I don't feel like I can't do.
Yeah.
So I'm like, should I ever win a Grammy? It's going to feel like today.
Yeah.
Like I'm going to get home and I'm going to be like, man, I just won. And then I'm going to be like, all right, so what now?
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? And that feels extremely reassuring to me. It doesn't feel like this big, where before it might have felt like it's this big pedestal and this big podium and it takes a long time to climb that mountain.
I agree with you.
For me, 100%. It feels like, oh, that's the same plane. It's just farther along. I can walk that way. That seems a lot easier than climbing high.
I get that.
Walking far feels a lot easier than climbing high.
I totally
for some
get
reason.
that. And,
you know what I mean?
And I get that because there's this one like quote that goes, you've been through 100%, you've gotten through 100% of all of the tough times that you've lived through, like till this very moment in time. You know what I mean? And that is almost, I think for me specifically, because I haven't achieved anything, I feel. Because I don't have goals. Like I don't set goals for myself the way I feel like you probably do because you are envisioning certain things in your life that you want artistic wise. I don't really have that. So like I don't have anything that I'm like striving for, but I have gone through some relatively deep and dark moments in my life that a lot of people are unable to get back from, or don't know how to move on from that. You know what I mean? Don't know how to properly heal from that or go through that. So to me, that same idea of like, oh, and I thought that was hard. Like, I'm fine. Like, I thought when I would get told that my daughter was autistic, it was going to be really hard for me. In reality, I was like, oh, it wasn't that bad. And in my mind, I'm like, it hasn't been bad raising an autistic child at all. Like, she's fine. Like, it's fine. It's not as big of a deal as people want to make it out to
nothing's
be.
ever as good as what you've imagined it, and nothing's ever as bad as what you imagined.
So like, I've gone through all of my bad moments that I've gone through, you know, just without having to name much. It's just, I've gone through a lot that a lot of people have told me, a lot of my friends that are my age that are like, damn, you really went through that. And I'm like, yeah, like it's fine. Because at the end of at the end of the day, you know, you internalize, you realize everything that's happening to you, and you move on, because there's no other way to do it. Like, there's really nothing else you can do besides keep going and just getting through it. So like, the times where I've felt at my worst with my child, or even just with myself, I'm fine right now, you know? And it's like, and it comes from this mentality that I feel like our father gave us, or especially something I've kind of picked up along the way with the whole money thing. Even when I spend money, he's like, spend it. At the end of the day, it's going to come and go. Like, at the end of the day, you're going to bring it back because you work hard. Because we are the kind of people that work hard for a living. Like, I work my ass off to get what I got to get. Right. And I'm not going to stop working to get my money. So it's, I
don't like not working. I
don't like not working. I've not worked before, and it's felt absolutely horrible.
Yeah, I don't like whenever people have to take vacation. I'm like, oh God, I don't know.
I don't know about that, man. I like taking my vacation.
Like, we went to New York last year.
Oh yeah.
And we were like we were there for like 2 weeks or whatever, and a lot of the time I was working.
Yeah.
Like, I was like filming stuff. I was like taking, you know what I mean? Like, just being like present doesn't always bode well for me. I'm like, man, I gotta keep
but
moving.
You're also very like, you can't sit still. Like, you're one of you're that person. I'm not. I will gladly lay in my bed and be a sloth for a whole week if they let me. Like, if they're gonna pay me to be at home all day, I will take my vacations all the time.
What were you gonna say right now? You started saying something.
I was gonna say earlier when we were just talking about goals and everything.
Yeah.
I don't think I ever realized in the moment, like, when I'm achieving a goal, that I'm achieving it, because most of the time, like, I'll realize that I achieved a goal afterwards. Then I'll look back on it and say, like, wow, that was once my goal. But oftentimes when I'm achieving that goal, I've already set a new one. Yeah. So like, I'm not even thinking about, oh, this was my goal before. It's like, I've already moved on. Like, my mentality is thinking about something else. And then when I'm just thinking about the past and being nostalgic and thinking about stuff, I'll look and realize, like, wow, I really did achieve that. Like, I wanted that for a long time and I achieved it, but I was never able to like stop and look at it and appreciate it in the moment because of the fact that I already
a lot of people have that. I try really hard to slow down a little bit and say to myself, like, just sit back a little, just breathe and like look at where you are and compare that to where you were.
Yeah.
I try to do that as best as I can. I feel like I do a pretty good job of that.
I'm really bad at immediately like thinking to myself, at least with like my performance stuff, just as soon as I start to do better, just being like, I want more.
Yeah.
Like, I have a new thought.
But that's not bad.
It's not bad.
To me, that's not bad.
It becomes scary when I think about it, and then I think about my goals for the future. That, again, like, you know, when you're glamorizing it and looking at it and whatnot, and then thinking about it and realizing that, like, I might not even realize in the moment when I'm there that
like you don't take
right,
in
but
the
so
time
long as you realize it
eventually,
at any time, I feel like that's still good.
Yeah, it's still nice to look back on the stuff and like realize like,
but like,
wow, you really did that.
Yeah, like nobody said you have to appreciate it when it happens. You just have to appreciate it, in my opinion.
Yeah, but it's also I dislike the fact of like, also as I look back on that moment and realize that like in that moment I was accomplishing the goal that I set for myself in the past. Mm-hmm. I also have that moment kind of, it's tainted a little bit by me still not being happy with where I am because
That's
I
what I
have
was
set
about
a new
to say.
goal.
That's a
Like,
different
it's
thing.
That's what I
tainted
was
at
about
that
to
point.
say.
That's a
Instead of me
completely
being
different
able
thing.
to, like, set
If
that
you
aside.
if you achieve your goals but you still feel defeated because you're not somewhere where you want to be, that's a completely different thing. But having ambition is not bad.
Yeah.
Like telling yourself, because that happens to me all the time. Like I get somewhere and I'm like, even if I realize like, oh, this is where I want it to be a year from now, of course I'm thinking about where I want to be next. Like it's not like I stopped there, right? Of course I'm like, but now I need to do this. Now I need to do this. Oh man, like there's more work, or I have to do this much more work now. I have to do. Of course that's on my mind. That's not intimidating all that much. But that is ambition. If you didn't have ambition, that wouldn't happen. You would have settled for whenever you were succeeded, and you would have sat there and been like, okay, now I don't know what to do, right? So ambition in and of itself is not bad, but to feel defeated by ambition, now that's a completely different conversation. You know what I mean? Because if you feel more defeated by you having goals rather than feeling challenged by having goals and being excited about those challenges, now we're having a very different kind of conversation. And that can vary person to person. And I've been in that too, where I'm like, man, I feel so withered and weathered and low, and I felt so diminished and self and defeated and like sliced open, like all these bad things. Like I felt so down that like the idea of challenging and getting to the next place was more what's the word I'm looking for? Exhausting. Was more exhausting than like where I was, right? Almost as if I got there and I'm like, God, it took me so long to get here. Now it's gonna take me that much longer to get over there.
I feel that
whenever you're weathered, and you know, I've been there also, but I've had to force myself constantly to make sure that I remember to remind myself life is oftentimes about perspective.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you have to teach, and it is a skill. It is not a natural ability. You can work on this.
Yeah.
How to view the thing that you're looking at, or the perspective in which you are looking at yourself through, and just move to the other side of the room and look at it from a different point of view.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
You have to, that is a thing you have to practice. That is not, some people have it more naturally. Like some people, people have told this about me, like you naturally have that. You become naturally excited about the next thing. So you get this new boundless energy that you want to go towards that.
To develop that kind of practice.
But I've also had to remember in times where I've been more depressed, in times where I've had like really low moments, and I feel defeated, and I feel like, man, I don't feel like myself. I feel like I'm like stagnant. I've had to tell myself in real time, try to look at this from a different point of view. It's fucking hard, but it is something that you can practice. Optimism is a choice.
It absolutely is.
You know what I mean? It's not.
It doesn't just come.
And
like you.
Let me go ahead and make an addendum to that. Obviously, if somebody hears optimism is a choice, people are going to come for me because they're like, well, people that have depression, you can't stop that chemical imbalance.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about that.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about you. Anybody that has a medical condition, you obviously can't help your medical condition.
Yeah.
Right? Or if you can, you're probably doing what you are supposed to do to make that better. Do what you have to do.
Yeah.
Right? Talk to your physician, talk to your doctor, do whatever you have to do. Nutrition wise and health wise, and you know what I mean, the cards you've been dealt, you know, it sucks, but you know, do what you have to do in that sense, right? Sometimes somebody with bipolar disorder or depression or clinical depression or things like that, maybe optimism isn't a choice for them.
Yeah. Or it's a harder choice.
Right. But if you're not struggling with that kind of thing, and you look at the world through that kind of mentality, you can really open a lot of doors for you.
It can.
Yeah, I think that that advice of kind of trying to look at something from a different perspective is actually very helpful. Because I was given the advice of finding those times that you feel anxious and anxiety, and normally you want to like retreat from whatever it is that
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
doing that's like causing that anxiety. Like that's your natural reaction. Feel that and feel that like whatever it is that's happening in your body, if it's like your heart is beating fast, if you're getting sweaty,
Yeah.
things like that, and try to feel that and immediately try to force your brain to start thinking of it as adrenaline instead of anxiety. Think of adrenaline,
that's a good
think of
perspective
excitement,
switch.
and legit try to like rewire your brain to think of
Yeah.
it. And again, it's
And
it all depends on if it's a thing that like your brain just naturally like, or if you have like a medical condition that you cannot help that, but it can be helpful because there are multiple different types of anxiety, and like if it's social anxiety that sometimes you do get like excited being out and about. Like for me, for example, I love being around people. I do. I definitely think I'm an extrovert, but I also have social anxiety. So being in social positions, like sometimes I feel super energetic from it, and other times I feel super anxious.
Yeah.
And so I was told
And
try to
when
take
they're
that
down by it, yeah.
and get your brain to work to be more.
It's so
consistent
funny.
with
I'm gonna
the
bring this back. I'm gonna bring
adrenaline.
this back to the like poor tendencies thing. But it's so funny that like her and I are in a lot of ways so opposite.
Yeah.
Because she has, and I'll bring this back to the poor tendencies in a little bit. You'll see, but like she is an extrovert. Like whenever she's out and about and like things are flowing really well, and like all of a sudden she has like limitless, boundless energy. I'm an introvert, but I'm really good in social situations.
You are, yes.
You know what I'm saying?
You really
I
are,
have
yeah.
the ability of saying like, oh, I have to be social. All right, I'm gonna
Turn
run
it
the
on.
room. You know what I mean? And I will run the room. Whatever it is, whatever conversation I need to be having, however conversation I need to be having it, whatever the goal is from the conversation, like let's go. Like, I got you. Let's do it. At the end of the night, I might feel fucking drained, but I can do it. I am an introvert by design.
default, yeah.
I rather be by myself. I rather be in the dark. I rather like to the point where like again the
I
poor
feel you.
the
I
poor
feel you.
tendencies. When she started living with me in the duplex, I take showers in the dark, and that's super weird. I didn't think it was weird for a long time, but I really do. When she started living with me, I would take showers in the dark, and I don't know why. I don't know if you asked me this directly or if I came to this conclusion separately, but I'm like, oh, like, I wonder if, like, she thinks that I'm taking showers in the dark to save energy. To not have the light bill high. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? And it was like, no,
You really are. You're thinking that, man, she probably is a real dusty
Yeah, like
poor.
imagine
you're
someone
stingy as fuck.
Yeah.
Trying not to turn the light on while I shower.
Right.
I'm just
But
trying
no,
to feel the feels.
Even now, I'm like, I rather be in the dark whenever I'm showering, and it's such a weird tendency that people might interpret as like,
It's
boy, did you
not-
grow up poor or
Well,
what? Like
it's
you didn't
not-
have
it's
like,
not
where's your
even-
bucket? Like, and because we used to take showers with the bucket when the boiler went off, like in the winter, like I had to take showers with the little bucket.
Mom, we would boil the
To be
water.
fair,
and
okay,
shit.
one, I don't think I ever thought that because I also didn't notice for a very long time. I think you actually.
But you were the one that,
mentioned it to me
or did I
first.
point it out, or did
I
you
think
point it out?
Mentioned it to me
I feel
first.
like I don't know why I felt like you pointed it out.
I don't think
to
I
me.
ever pointed it out. Or no, maybe I did. Maybe I did. Maybe I
think
and
you did.
all of a sudden I seen it and I was like, were
Why
you
do you
just
take
showering in the
showers?
dark? And it just, if anything, it just weirded me out. Because I'm like,
Walks
how do you know where everything is? I would be knocking shit down left and
because
right. Like, I would
because it is
fall on
dark
my
in that
ass.
bitch.
But again, you remember when I live by myself, I'm like everything is where I left it.
And that was the thing. He also does that just with the house though, where like he doesn't like to have a lot of lights on, so he just knows like how to walk around, especially in the duplex. He just knew how to walk around the duplex without like banging into shit.
This
And I
is
was
so
like
true.
having to walk around, turn on lights. So I'm like, bro, I'm gonna fall and crack my skull open.
I mean,
but with that, the other thing I wanted to say. I definitely didn't think that because of the fact that at the time I was living with you, because I was living in a van, #van life. It was my choice. I wasn't just like homeless, you know.
Yeah.
But anyways, and I really was showering in a bucket. So I definitely wasn't gonna judge you on the way that you lived your life, even if it was broke tendencies. Honestly, if anything, if you would have told me like, oh, I'm just trying to save some money on lights, I would have been like, oh, bet, yeah, no, that makes sense. That's smart.
Makes sense.
But you're like, no,
but other people might look at that.
Like,
I'm so grateful for her so much, because like other people might look at that and be like, bro, what the fuck?
Yeah,
like, you can turn on the light. It's not a lot. So, it's like it's 3 cents for the fucking kilowatt or whatever the fuck.
I feel like introverted tendencies are very interesting because I'm an introvert. Like I think all three of us as a family. In fact,
I think mom's probably the only extrovert.
Yeah. Mom's like great at being around people. All the rest of us are like, yeah, nah, like it's not.
We'd rather be by ourselves.
And I'm not the kind of person that can turn it off. Like I can't just go into a social setting and be like, right, my job right now is to do this. Well, no, never mind.
But you're pretty good at being social too.
I'm lying to you. No, it is.
But for you, it might be a distraction. Like you might be using it as like
mine is 100% a distraction.
Oh, I'm not trying to think about shit right now.
I'm trying and it's gonna happen when I'm like buzzed or something.
Right.
Like I'm good at being social. I'm a friendly person. That's what it is. I'm not an introvert that's like Alex. That's like no, yes,
yeah.
No, like
that's also antisocial.
Yeah, he's like yes. I mean, I'm very social, just introverted. So I prefer to be alone.
Yeah.
Even with a child, I prefer to be alone. In fact, I feel like my tendency to want to be on my own and do things on my own has been the reason why everything's developed the way it's developed in my life, in terms of like who I've chosen to spend my life with as opposed to not spending my life with.
Right, that's a good point.
Because I valued it so much that I was like, I didn't realize that it was that important in like my development as a human. Yeah. And it's crazy.
I always struggled with dating because
you're not alone in the whole showering in the dark though.
You shower in the dark too? You see, it's not just me.
That's why I was like, wait, you do that? Like
I shower in the dark. I love it.
I find it so much more weird that you shower in the dark for like your peace of mind, more so than like if it would have been a broke tendency and trying to save money on the light bill, I'd been like, oh, bet, I'll turn off all the lights.
I'm not even gonna lie to you. Like, okay, so like I will shower.
I shower in the dark. It makes me feel so like peaceful.
It
makes me feel so
in
like
the dark.
Yeah.
I will turn off. So like it's a little hard to shower in the dark when you have a child running in and out of the restroom. But like when I don't have her, let's say she's for some reason I don't have her, and I
have to be even more specific. It's especially because it's at duplex. It's not even just the dark. Pitch fucking black.
You liked it when the door was closed.
With the door was closed, and I had the blacked out window, and I would fucking go to.
Oh yeah.
I felt like I was in a void.
Yes.
And it felt fantastic.
Okay. So I feel like for it's weird, but it's not weird because I 100% love doing that. So like whenever my kid's not there, and picture this. Now that the new apartment's remodeled, there is no window in that apartment anymore, in that restroom.
Even better.
No window at all. So I will turn off all the lights, and maybe this is weird, but I don't like to even close the blinds whenever when I'm showering in general, because I'm just used to having to be like making sure the child isn't doing anything. Yeah. But even when I do that and I turn off all the lights, and I always seem to have music on because I there is one thing
I'll do the music.
I don't like to not hear anything. So like I like everything being dark, but I like to hear. I am a very big like what's going on in my background, like what's the background music looking like right now. So I'll just put something on, whatever, and I we're in the 100% dark.
In the dark. But it's so weird because whenever we started
cleanse me for like a good moment.
Whenever we started living together, I'm so glad that like we were friends first, and we were just like I would talk about all these conversations about my goals and my passions and why I did certain things, and you know what I mean? Because I always had such a tough time dating people because I was always really afraid that like they would see certain aspect of a choice that I made and judge me for it. Yeah. Because it had happened a lot of times. You know what I mean? Albeit, those relationships probably would have worked out anyway. But you know what I mean? Like I was still like aware in my mind, like, man, people are gonna judge me by this dusty ass car. Oh, people are gonna judge me by where I live. Oh, you know what I mean? And like make judgments that even I tell myself like, that's not necessarily a bad judgment to make. Like if you had to make a judgment, I understand why you made that judgment. Yeah. I don't think that I fit that description, but you never gave me the chance to prove you wrong. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's bummy, but you know, it is what it is. I'm not mad at you. To the point where like I've even asked her before, where I'm just like, do you get bothered by this? Like, do you get bothered that like I can have this, but I choose to do this anyway? You know what I mean? Something like,
yeah, like your car.
Yeah, like my car.
yeah, just like little things here and there.
A
like,
lack of a bed frame. Like, you know what I mean?
Like,
and she's like, no, it doesn't bother me. And I'm like, okay, so this is good. I'm lucky because I'm like,
you vibing because
I'm vibing.
yeah, because no, that's the thing though, because like I have I don't have like those. You just live a really interesting type of life, man, because like you are successful but also conservative, not like
ideologically,
not ideologically.
I am not ideologically conservative.
He's definitely
in the
not
slightest,
ideologically conservative at all, or fiscally, really. But you just are aware of like what you need to hold back on and where your limits are set, and you are one of those people that knows how to keep that promise to yourself of like, I told myself I was gonna starve for this 6 weeks and not eat a single goddamn carb, but and you won't do it.
But this is why I'm so bad at self-help. I like offering help to people
because
people will ask me, how do you do that? How do you do that for 6 weeks and do that blah blah blah?
Just do it.
And I'm just like, well, I didn't think about it.
Yeah, you just did it.
I didn't tell myself beforehand for the next 6 weeks I have to do blah 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 blah.
You weren't hyping yourself up between them.
That legit was a conversation that we had, because I asked about like, how did you set the goal and figure out like, okay, I'm going to save this amount of money, or like, how did you set your goal to get the house?
Yeah.
And he was like, well, I didn't, like, you know, I just along the way, you know, disciplined myself and was like, okay, I'm just like going to save this amount of money. Like, and he was like, I just had a plan to save a certain amount of money. And then all of a sudden, like, I had that money in my account. I was like, okay, I'm just going to buy a house, I guess, because I have the money for it. And I was like, that was not helpful.
It's a combination.
That's not how my brain works.
Right. And I have to apologize to her, because I'm just like, I'm really bad at giving people advice. Yeah. And you would think that I wouldn't be, because like you said, like I am successful. I'm successful in a lot of areas in my life, and I don't have to struggle for a lot of things anymore. And it's not that I make myself struggle, but where other people find certain things as a struggle, I don't find them to be a struggle at all.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like, the moment I make a decision about whatever, let's say it's a project or a new idea or whatever it is, the moment I make that decision, my mind goes, what do you need to make that decision? Let's go backwards and go and get there. You know what I mean? Let's start at the decision and go backwards. Like, what are you going to need? And then so then I'll go da 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 da. And by the time that I get to where I am now, I'm like, oh, okay. So then I'll just have to do this and that. And like, I don't have to then say like, oh, I'm struggling right now because I'm not eating what I want to eat. I'm just like,
I'm very curious.
2 weeks later, I'm like, oh, this is just what I've been doing. It doesn't. Yeah. I can't like put it into paper.
And you know what's crazy,
I can't like put it into. So when you ask me, I'm like, I just did it.
It seems to me like the people are, I guess, maybe naturally overthinkers. You don't seem to be that kind of person. You are a good.
Would you agree with that?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I feel like, because for instance, you and I have literally talked about how we overthink such a it can be making chicken for the next day, and we're like, but what if I gotta do this, and then we're like, but wait, what about this thing? And then it's like we just constantly keep bombarding that simple situation of you gotta do A, B, C, and D to get there, like you do. And we go, yeah, but like, what if A had another mini A or something? Or
I don't do a lot of what ifs.
Like, and
I don't do a lot of what ifs.
And we do that a lot. I have constant, like, what ifs are everything that's running through my mind, and it sucks.
Yeah. What ifs
or if I do what ifs, they're very exciting. They're not. They're not like what ifs that like cripple me. Like if I had saved up a certain amount of money for the house, and I'm like, I don't know, maybe I'll travel with it. Maybe I'll quit my job. Maybe I'll just go on a road. Maybe I'll just do something right. And then when the pandemic hit, it created an opportunity, and I started having some conversations with some people, and they were like, well, you could do this. And I was like, what if? And so it was an exciting what if. If I do it, it's an exciting what if. It's not necessarily a what if of like, what if everything goes to shit? What if a bus hits me tomorrow? What if I don't think about, it just doesn't, my mind doesn't do that. And I think it goes back to what I said earlier. The goal for me is more important than everything before it.
Okay, yeah.
Like absolutely everything before it. To a detriment.
It is.
I mean, if you ask some of my ex-girlfriends, they'll tell you like, oh, well, our relationship ended because of your goals.
Yeah.
And I'm very comfortable with that.
Yeah.
I'm very comfortable with the idea of being like, oh yeah, that's true.
Sacrificed a lot.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't even go to the point of
But again, I wouldn't call it a sacrifice.
I was about to say that.
I'd be like, that's what I needed to do to get here, and this was more important.
Like a sacrifice, but it isn't really a sacrifice.
They might have thought about it as a sacrifice.
And you just were like, this is just what I gotta do. Yeah. Like this is step A.
I consider myself more a pragmatist than a idealist.
Yes.
You know what I mean? I'm just like, that's what I want. I'm gonna go for it.
Bless you and your heart, because
fucking hard. And to be fair, sometimes I fail. Like I have failed before. But
I'm sure
failure doesn't fit. I think I had this conversation with you a long time ago. If it wasn't with you, it was with one of the people that I coach. But I was like, there's a difference between failure and defeat. You know what I mean?
Yes.
I have failed more times than I have succeeded. But failure is an incident.
Yeah.
Defeat is a mentality.
Yes, absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? So like, I don't ever feel defeated. I can fail as many times as whatever, right?
Yeah.
And I have failed a lot, but I've never felt defeated by my failures. You know what I mean?
Absolutely, yeah.
I've if anything, I have felt more energized by my failures. I'm like, oh, y'all really think y'all gonna keep me down like that? Okay, watch me. Like I get more passionate.
You get more of a drive to do that,
or I feel more like my pride comes in, and I start telling myself like, oh, like I can't believe you didn't think about that. Like I really did catch you off guard. Like you're better than that. Yeah. You're smarter than that. You should have been able to catch that. Try it again. You know what I mean? But so failure and defeat are two completely different things for me, and they don't even live in the same
realm.
Failure is completely acceptable.
Yeah.
I am more than willing to fail over and over and over and over and over and over and over again, and I have no problem with it. You will never, though, catch me saying like, I'm defeated, I want to give up.
Yeah.
That's a completely different feeling. It doesn't even come into my... I've never felt that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's why, like... I have felt depression. I have been depressed, but I don't think that I can be diagnosed as a person with depression. Because I think they're two different things. You know what I mean?
Like for somebody like myself, I on the contrary have not contrary, but I do agree with like failure is part of the growing process. They're part of the growing pains. That's what you have to go through to be able to do pretty much anything. I, on the other hand, though, have felt multiple times I really want to give up. Like but I've been like, I'm this close to being defeated by my circumstance. Like literally a hair away from just being like, fuck it all. Go to shit. Like I can't do this anymore. But where I pride myself in is knowing that each time I've ever come across that thought, I am the one who pulls me out of it. So
as you should be.
So where I find a lot of like motivation is not necessarily in how many times I've failed, but how many times, because it's happened a lot, because I don't think my psyche is all as like strong willed as yours. So I tend to go through a lot of these like, fuck, I really want to give up right now. Yeah. Like not a lot, but like enough times for me to remember them and enough times for them to be significant. Because had I given up, I wouldn't be where I'm at right now. Had I given up certain things, I would be living a very different life than what I'm living right now. Maybe. Right.
I've given up once. I gave up one time, and the reason I gave up was not because of my. It was because of a circumstance. I gave up once because because legally I was bound by something, and I couldn't find a way around it.
Yeah.
And that defeated me.
Yeah.
Like that mentally like brought me to my knees. You know what I mean? But so I was like, you know what? In order for me to like, I still have all these goals and this and that, but now I feel pain. Like I feel like emotional pain by not being able to achieve these things because of something that is out of my control. So, I said, you know what? The solution is don't like put the goals in the trash.
Yeah.
And just live a life of serendipity and do whatever it is that you want. And like, and don't, and like face the consequences as they come. Don't think anything larger than yourself.
Yeah.
And it made me depressed.
Yeah.
So like I gave it up, and in that, I think it was like a year where I gave it up, and I kind of went on like a self-destructive wave.
Yeah.
Unknowingly. At the end of that, like thinking back retrospectively, I'm like, no, I can't give that up because maybe unhealthily so, these things are part of my identity.
Yeah.
And I can't afford to not have those things in my life because I'm a worse person without them.
Yeah.
And I mean like literal worse person. Like I would like mentally I was in a bad place, physically I was in a bad place, but also like the way that I interacted with other people, the way that I thought about other people, the way I treated other people, it was just not.
That's where that whole concept of like, you can't be diagnosed with depression, for instance. But for me, every single time I've come close to failure was because of my depression. So like it wasn't.
Yeah, that's a very different.
Like
this is why I'm so bad with self-help.
Yeah.
Because if you told me that, I wouldn't know what to do.
Yeah, you'd be
I
like,
wouldn't know what advice to give you.
Yeah, like so.
You know what I mean?
On the contrary, like I have to pick myself up from whatever situation. Because there's time actually. There was like maybe about 2-3 months ago, I was going through it. I don't think I talked to you about this one in particular, but I know I was like. It was right before I ended up getting a car. It was maybe about 3 weeks before I ended up getting a car. And everything was kind of happening in the worst way possible.
These past couple months have been rough anyway.
Yeah. So and it was just, it was even before everything that happened last month. And it was just a really shitty time. And it was just like, what the fuck is happening with my luck right now? And it was a lot of like, why does that keep happening? What is going on? What in karma was happening? You know what I mean? I don't even believe in karma. Like I don't do karma like that. I don't believe in like what you put out, you get back. Like, no, I believe in working for what I have and fixing that shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So when everything just kind of kept like beating it down, I was like, there's no fucking way that this keeps happening, to the point where I was like, I give up. Like, I really want to give up. Like, this is it. And in this particular situation, me giving up meant me giving up a lot of what I had. So it wasn't me giving up like, damn, I give up on this
mentally,
situation. Yeah, no. It was like, I have to give things up that's going to change the course of my life.
Yeah.
So I was like, I kept pondering it until one day I was like, fuck this, fuck that. I'm not doing that.
Right.
And it really just took that mentality to the point where anytime I'm coming even close to even letting something affect me to where maybe I start sulking, or maybe I'll start being like moody or broody or whatever, I'm like, no, bitch, get the fuck up. Like you have to. I just started believing in telling myself what I wanted was attainable. Like my goal in life is attainable. My comfort that I'm like searching for, it keeps being attained in different ways daily. So let me just keep going. Yeah. You know what I mean? And it was surprisingly brought on by you guys in a way that you probably didn't even know. But because I look at the way you guys are really good at maybe it's not a good way to say it this way, but you guys do fixate on things that you're good at, or fixate on things that you are passionate about. Your music, your art, your performance, and like what you do, like circus arts and everything of that sorts. It dawned on me multiple times. I'm like, okay, well, is there anything that I want to challenge myself with? Because there's a lot of things in my life that challenge me, but these aren't things that you can win. Like being a mother is challenging, but you can't win.
That's a good point.
Like there's no end point to being a mother. Like there's no like I finally did it. Like no, that doesn't exist as being a mother.
The small victories maybe.
Yeah. So like to me, it's like there is no way to gauge how much longer I have to achieve a goal in my life right now, because almost every single goal I have, there's no way to gauge. There's no way to measure it.
There's no end goal.
So I picked up pole dancing, and it truly started bringing in the idea of like, like there is little things that I have to learn to pick up to be able to be successful in this form of art.
Working out also releases endorphins, so
it does. So like I would do that, and I would work out a lot prior to this, but even something as simple as climbing the goddamn pole, gripping correctly and learning how to move my tension in there was baffling to me the first time I even touched the thing. So now that I have it and I have it readily accessible every day, I've done it to where I'm like, this is actually easy. Like, and it kind of touches back on how you don't notice that you've already achieved it. And so you just keep moving on. And it truly is like that. It's like that, but I'm trying to think about it the way he does, in the sense that I'm like, I don't want to just let it be something that I learned how to do and like moved on. I'm trying to actually like,
it's also a great point to bring up that like, you saying that like, just working out should release endorphins and all, but mentioning that like you not necessarily having like a goal that can be obtained that you can see is very different. And we kind of touched on this a little bit last night when we were having a conversation talking about like, specifically with circus artists, if you have like an audition or a show that you're a part of or you're, auditioning for, you have this goal to obtain. So like you work for a long period of time, and it's like, okay, like that's what you're working towards. And then once you get it, oftentimes when you're performing, you might be doing a little bit less conditioning that you're used to, because a lot of your like workout is from so many shows throughout the day or throughout the week.
Because all you're doing is maintenance.
You're so you're just doing a lot of like maintenance stuff after that. But then once you finish that, now like you just finished that goal, you just complete it, and now you don't necessarily, unless you have another goal set for you as soon as you're done with that one that you just finished, you still should be keeping up with your maintenance and should be like, and going back to trying to build on your, build muscle, build
and gain
tricks.
new skills.
Yeah, exactly. But it becomes very difficult because now if you don't have another set goal, you're just doing it just to do it, just to keep up with yourself, just to,
that's where the benefit of a coach comes in.
Yes. I do believe
which
that's
I've never really needed a coach like that, but I understand how some people like.
Yeah, it was really beneficial. Like when I was either a part of a company or like, and having to like consistently be at a practice, like that was always helpful. Or just being around people to train and doing like group trainings and stuff, and like being like, oh, I know like this person like me and that person always trains every day at this time. Like, we're always there to train, or right before my class.
I feel like it feels good to have like some sort of accountability with others.
Yeah.
That way, because I know for a fact that when I'm training, when I'm learning, not training, because I'm nowhere near that kind of like ability yet, but when I'm learning with Sam, anything that I learn with Sam, whether it be stretching, whether it be learning how to stretch, whether it be climbing the goddamn pole, a turn, or whatever it may be, a spin, it feels very different than, because to me, my end goal at that moment is Sam, if that makes any sense. Or because she is the utmost, a bit like somebody physically there who literally has already mastered what it is that I'm looking to master.
Yeah.
So I'm like, that's a goal that I'm trying to essentially achieve, because I think it's very easy to compare, as when you are in the field that you're in, it's really easy to compare yourself to somebody who's already done it, who already knows what they're doing. And you're like, how do I get there?
Sure.
Like it doesn't matter how their life is going or any of that sense. It's just, how do I get that skill to look like that? Right. The way this person flawlessly does this. Maybe and sometimes you think, I don't really want to get there, but I want to get somewhere close. Or you're like, no, I want to get there and I want to do it better. Or I want to do it just as good, whatever it may be.
What I've realized that has become like a really crazy like thing that I don't think I ever thought of like as a mental side of achieving that stuff. Like I've achieved a lot of the goals that I had, and then like, you know, for a long time it was just when I had never done silks before, I was like, I just want to be able to climb the silks. I just want to be able to, you know, have a nice straddle up on the silks and not have to like use the silks to push myself up with my feet, you know? And now it's like I'm able to do all of that stuff, but then I got to a point that was just like a baseline for me, and I was doing stuff above that.
Yeah.
And like, you know, my tricks were above that. So then all of a sudden when people see me, and there are people that look up and they say, wow, like that, you know, you have a great straddle, and like they want to, and they
emulate it. Yeah.
You know, but knowing that's like, yeah, that straddle is like good and all, but like that used to just be whatever for me. All of a sudden, like somebody trying to, I guess, praise you for those things, if like you're not at the point that you were at, is kind of like, yeah, it's good, but you don't understand what it could be. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yes.
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 You know, I feel like I've gotten a lot into that, like, even while people will like
praise
me for something, I'll still, for instance, I was at like Kroger, and there was just a random woman that like came up to me and told me, she's like, wow, like, you know, I love your build, like your build on your body. And I was like, oh, thank you. And I was like, very sweet. And, you know, I thanked her and everything, and I walked away. But then in my head, I was like, yeah,
but
I mean,
I want
like,
it better.
but like, it's not, you know, it's not where it was.
Yeah.
You know?
Or yeah.
I know where it could be.
Yes. Yes. And I
So
think
then even that praise sometimes starts to be like self-deprecating.
It jabs a little.
Self-deprecating.
Yeah. So
I am not good with praise. When people praise me, I'm not good at receiving that information. Not because, like, this is where like the difference between confidence and arrogance comes in. Because I don't think that I'm an arrogant person, but I am a very confident person. So if you put me around people that are really competent, I'm like, I can be in this room. But if you put me around people that are not as competent doing the same thing that I'm trying to do, then I will bleed into the background.
Yeah.
I won't show off.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's cool. Like, no, it's not a big deal. Like, yeah, you know what I mean?
Like, I don't have to be the fucking star of the room.
Right.
I'm just gonna be
but
here.
when people praise me, I'm always like, I get like weirdly, what's the word?
Like shy almost.
Shy.
Like, yeah.
I get weirdly shy. I don't get self-deprecating, but I get weirdly shy because I'm just like, I don't know how to
receive this.
tell you to receive it, or to say thank you, or to like say like it was better, or like, you know what I mean, or it was that. So I get more shy than anything whenever I get praise. I'm always just like, thanks, and then, you know, it's bye.
Yeah, and I definitely feel that. I definitely get that shyness. But like, and I feel like that's like my normal go-to. But then when I am struggling and like things aren't, and I'm like having like a little bit of a low, that's when I'll start getting, and I never want to like be that person that like, you know, somebody praises me and then I like, so I don't like say it out loud in the moment and whatnot, but like I will think in my own head, and I'm like, you know, I tell them thank you and whatnot, and then afterwards I'm like, yeah, but not really. Like, and I keep, you know, and I don't allow myself to accept it. That's what it is. Even if somebody praises me, I don't allow myself to accept it,
to accept the praise.
Yeah, because I'm like, yeah, but they don't know what I used to.
Question. This,
you know?
and this will, I don't mean to put you on blast, but anything, but this will probably be the biggest indicator about like that, like shift in perspective that you're talking about. Is I would think it's okay for you not to be able to accept the praise if you also do the same thing with the criticism. If you internalize the criticism but you don't internalize the praise, then I think you're being self-deprecating.
Yeah.
If you hear the praise and you don't internalize it because you're like, it could be this, but then you hear the criticism and you're like, you don't internalize it because you're like, but you don't know what you're talking about, then it's like, all right, yeah, you're pretty evened out. Like, you know what I mean? But if you will accept the criticism but you won't accept the praise, then that maybe the perspective needs to change.
Yeah,
there.
no, I definitely,
you know what I mean?
I think I definitely accept the criticism, unless it's like coming from somebody that I think is just being nasty just for the sake of being nasty. Because I've definitely had people that I'm like, you're just trying to like poke at me. It's not necessarily, you know. But I'll definitely like take criticism from other people and from myself.
The criticism will eat at you more than the praise will lift you up.
Yes,
yeah, and sure. I think that's where people, that most people, and I don't struggle with that. If you criticize me, I'm like, okay, I don't feel like
I'm
any
not-
sort of like intimidation or
I'm
any.
neither here nor there with
TikTok's a good example because they be going a ham on these comments on like all of us,
everything,
and then just good, bad, middle ground or whatever, right? And like I'll hear people say things about me, and I'm like, I'm none phased.
Yeah, and
but I'll
think
say people.
true.
I hear people say good things, and I'm still not phased.
Yeah.
So it makes me think that I'm pretty. It makes me feel like I'm pretty clear headed in terms of like my goal is not that.
Yeah.
My goal is not to receive the praise or to receive the criticism. My goal is still that thing that I'm trying to get to over there. And none of it, nothing from A to B coming in, good or bad, is gonna change that.
See,
you know what I mean?
And to me, which is interesting, like I like hearing praises. So like I like being told that you're doing a good job.
Who doesn't?
But I'm a person who usually always deflects it and is like, we're all doing a good job. Like,
sure.
Like at my job, like for instance, or with my kid is for instance, because
that's so funny. I'm the opposite. I'll finish and I'll tell you why.
Because a lot of fucking people like to be like, oh my God, you're doing so good with your kid. And I'm like, yeah, but it's not just me, right? And they're like, no, but it is you. And I'm like, no, but like, is it really though? It's fine.
No,
like, it's
and
not.
I'm the opposite. I've told her this many times. Like, I absolutely hate when people accept awards. Right? If it's like praise, like normal, like, oh, hey, you're doing a good job. I'm like, oh God, like you just called me out in the moment. I wasn't ready for this. But like, if when people are at awards and they thank God, that irritates me so much. And and it's not because I'm not religious. It's not because of that. It's not because I don't understand where that sentiment is coming from. It's the lack of or the unwillingness to get up there anywhere and say, I did this shit.
Recognize your own work.
You know what I mean? Like, I did this shit.
I have a really hard time doing that though.
I understand whenever they're like, props to this person and this person, because without them, I wouldn't be where I am or whatever.
Have y'all heard the one time that like Snoop Dogg accepted an award and he was like, and the last he's like, I want to thank me.
For being me, and last
Shout
of
out to
all,
Snoop
we
Dogg.
got like
Of course, there's a way to be like humble about it, and there's a way to be like, without people behind me and believing in me, I wouldn't be able to be who I am or this and that. But just whenever you just put it up to an idea like God, I'm like, bruh, you went through some shit in order to get to where you needed to get to, and you're not gonna. This is your moment to tell everybody. You know what I mean?
Interestingly enough, though, I would not do that. So this is
I would shit. You give me an award and I have to stand in front of people. I'm gonna be like, thanks to this person. This is firm foremost for like believing in me. But then afterwards, I'm looking straight at any camera and I'm saying to everybody out there that it has a goal, go and do that shit because only you can do it and fucking set your fucking mind to it. And because that's what I had to do. Ups, downs, lost relationships, lost friends, lost this, lost that. Lost money, and you had to go through that bullshit. You had to be up at night. I had to be up at night. I had to be up early. I had to buy the stuff. I had to do that. So yes. Thank you.
I'm very not like that. And I don't know if it's because a lot of the praises I've gotten have come from being a single mom. Like a lot of,
maybe. I guess that depends on the kind of praise, right?
Yeah, because a lot of people are very big on like wanting to be like, but you're doing so good for what you're doing, and I'm like, yeah, I know, but like, again, it goes back to the idea of like it's not as grandiose as it seems,
and it does take a village. It does take a village.
I will say it probably is. I just also seem to, unfortunately, downplay a lot of my success because of just thinking a lot of it's come from people helping me.
Right.
So
I understand it. Like something like being praised for being a good mom, that's a little bit more in the abstract. It's a little bit more arbitrary. But if somebody praises you for like if you're a valedictorian and you had to go up there, and you had to go through all that bullshit to stay at the top of your class, and you're gonna go up there and not thank yourself, like, bruh. You're the one that did that shit. You're the one, and not only is that like not in the arbitrary and not in the abstract, that's actually tangible. Those are actual numbers. Yeah. This is how you were that much better than everybody else.
And I will say,
you know what I mean?
I will say though, but I think that comes from also your lifestyle and you having things where you can be put on like a you got first place, you got second place, you got third place or whatever,
Sure.
because that's pretty much what you've done. It's always been if you're b-boying,
Yeah, you either win or you don't.
Well,
Yeah.
you either win or you don't. Like I won, bro. That shit's mine. You know what I mean? Like I
Right.
did this.
There's a lot of ownership that, and
I've never had
maybe
that.
you do. Maybe
Like-
you do have bring up a good point, because even in the b-boying side, like there's so much loss and there's so much failure. There's so much hurt. There's so much pulled muscles. There's so much bruises.
it's
There's
brutal.
all these things that like you get to just experience on your own, and nobody will help you with it. That like. The loss feels like it was your responsibility, but the win feels like it was your responsibility.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And I wonder if, like, thinking of the idea of complimenting somebody on, like, something that's this idea that's, like, we think of as an abstract idea of, like, being a good mom, instead of just thinking about, like, oh, she's telling me, like, I'm a good mom. Well, do I really know? Like, because there's this big
Abstract
question of, like,
idea.
Yeah.
But, like, think about the reason of why they're telling you you're a good mom.
Yeah.
For like, if the, like, I remember telling you before,
They're probably
like, talking
really
about
praising
you
a
and
characteristic more
They-
than their
they
well,
are.
I very specifically
feel.
remember, like, I was talking and I mentioned something about, I think it was actually on Instagram, and I like commented
we?
and said something about like you being a great mom.
Yeah.
And it was very specifically talking about the fact that you're just like there for your
Yeah.
child. Like
Yeah.
you're always there for your child.
Yeah.
You know? And regardless of anything else, like, you know that you're a good mom because you are there for your child.
I will say that.
You know, so like you can take that, and you can take that as a compliment of like, no, I do know that is true.
And you know,
that is something that
what's weird is though, it's like I 100,000%, if anybody were to come at me and be like, what kind of mom do you think you are? I'd be like, I'm a fucking great mom. Like I am not your run of the mill. Like I got you. Like you want to know, I could tell you every single detail about my kid and everything you can imagine. I could tell you how you're supposed to talk to her. I could tell you what song she's singing, even though she's not singing it correctly. Like I could tell you down to the like last nitty gritty detail. I could tell you anything. And I could tell you how anybody can be around her and stuff like that. And like, I know I'm a good mom. I know I'm a great mom, especially for everything that I've been doing alone with her. Yeah. But when people tell me, it's weird. Like it's almost like I get into my self-deprecating mode and start telling myself, I'm like, yeah, but I don't think I am a great mom, but I don't think it deserves my praise, your praise, because why wouldn't I want to be a great mom? You know what I mean? Like I'm not a great mom to receive your compliments about it. You know what I mean? While I will say though, there are other things that I do that I want to receive compliments on that I will gladly accept. But I will also be very much like, yeah, but I have a hard time accepting compliments, although I really want to hear them. Like I'm always like not fishing, but I always want to do something good enough to where somebody's like, damn, you did a really good job there, or whatever it may be. So that's why I really like doing makeup for like a good amount of time. Like, cause I was good at it. So like when people were like, damn, that eyeshadow looks good, I'd be like, yeah, fuck yeah, it looks good. I took my time with this shit. This shit was hard, and it takes skill to get there. And I think that was one of the only things that like grounded me to just the way life is, and just like constantly thinking of like, it's taking me skill to get here, which is why picking up what I just started picking up is essentially what I'm trying to be, like what I want to be praised on now is that. So like, because I know it's going to take me a long time to get that skill. It's going to take me a long time it's going to take bruises. It's going to take sore legs, ankles, arms, everything you can think of, just so that I can learn how to do this skill properly and gracefully. And like, I will accept your compliments then and there, baby. I'll be like, yes, I did that.
And that's kind of what I'm talking about, is like after a certain point, like when do you, I understand. I don't want to be like unfair to the people that are religious and that are like, you know, they thanking God for a specific purpose or whatever. But like, it is not a bad thing to give yourself the credit for you doing the things that you got to.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That you had to do in order to be successful. You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, with the way the world is set up and with the way life is, a lot of the times, if you want success, you're going to have to do more than average in order to get it done.
Yeah, for sure.
If you want more than average, if you want to be extraordinary, you can't do ordinary things.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I mean? So it's one of those things where, like, if you are doing extraordinary things in order to get to being extraordinary, then you deserve the credit for both the things that you had to do and for the achieving that milestone. You know what I mean? And I like giving people their praises and their flowers for those kinds of things while they I don't like giving it up to like an abstract idea.
Yeah.
I don't like giving it up to, like, of course, luck is always a factor.
Yeah.
100% luck is always a factor.
It really is.
But success is preparation plus luck.
Yeah.
So if you didn't prepare, luck is not going to get you up there.
Luck can be hitting you in the face and you still won't be able to do it. Yep.
So it's one of those things where, it's, to me, it really irks me whenever people don't accept don't take credit and, like, stand up tall whenever they're receiving something. Again, not arrogance.
Yeah.
But, like, saying, like, no, like, this. Yeah. I lost sleep because of this shit. I lost things because of this shit. Like, you know what I mean? So, like, I gotta, like, stand up here and be like, thanks, I appreciate you guys doing it. I fucking killed myself for this.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? So I wish people did that a lot more. It comes off as arrogance, but I really appreciate it whenever people do that. Like, I you know what I mean?
I get that.
So
I think this episode should be